criterium after the Giro della Montagna yesterday at the virtual Gateway Cup in the ERL. And welcome to day 2 of the virtual Gateway Cup. Brad Soner here with Frank Cundiff, one of the commissioners of the Echelon Racing League, and taking the weekend off from racing. Frank, as we head to Benton Park today, these are all classic stages of the Gateway Cup. Before we get to talking about today, I want to go back to yesterday at the Giro della Montagna, the legendary criterium in the neighborhood known as the Hill. And the course earns its name as well, with a pretty significant hill on that Giro della Montagna course that the riders conquered for day 1 of the virtual Gateway Cup. It was a pretty straightforward course yesterday, Frank, and ended in a field sprint. Sorry about that, but for the most part, today going to be very different than what we saw yesterday. The 4-corner crit, but today a ton of turns. Let's talk about the winner yesterday. A surprise win, I think, out of the group in the Giro della Montagna.
Yeah, Matt Moen from In Short came out of nowhere. He won the amateur race last week as well in the Cat 1 field. But, In Short's got a whole stable of riders who are able to win this race. And to be honest, Matt was not on the radar there, which might have played to his benefit in this race.
Yeah, a lot of guys trying to get away early. We saw big rides from riders like Matt Usborne. You see Alec Jones trying to take a go at it here as well, but really nobody able to get away. It came down to that select group that we see a lot of in the ends of these races. And then you see Moen just shoot right up the middle there in the white jersey for the Insured, presented by Pedal Power Team, formerly known as Evoc Bike, as Moen joining that squad after an amateur win as well. Now, a lot of riders familiar names at the top of the results list on this one. So those names, not so much a surprise, but Moen coming to the Echelon Racing League from the amateur series. We stream the amateur races each week before the pro series, and Moen actually winning the amateur race of the Giro della Montagna just a week ago before this one. That allowed him to enter the Echelon Racing League in the pro ranks. Ned Bowen second yesterday, along with Will Harden in third. Alec Jones ends up 4th place, and Chris Navin in 5th. But Frank, I want to go back and look at the amateur win for Matt Moen from his garage. Now, Moen is a dad from Iowa, but obviously spends a lot of time on the bike and getting better and better at this trainer. Now, he blew the field away in the amateur race, the Category 1 race that our friend Damon streamed over at CMS Livestream, but much different race in the pro race. He had some riders that could really challenge him yesterday. It's going to be really interesting to watch Moen out there today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think yesterday was a really easy race to hide. You can look at his average power to weight versus everyone else, and Matt is obviously figured out the platform really well and is able to hide and conserve that energy and then throw down that 16 to 18 watt per kilogram 10-second sprint at the end. Today with 10 turns, I think it's going to be a little bit of a different story, and I'm curious to see how it plays out.
Yeah, we talked about the hill yesterday. There is a little bit of elevation gain today, including the 2 overpasses over the freeway. You see the yellow section in our Velo viewer here. But yeah, this one is a technical one, and especially on RGT, that is going to be a major factor because, Frank, the corners are a major, major factor in racing on this platform.
Absolutely. The nuances that come with the RGT platform and the electronic braking your avatar does into the turns is definitely going to play into how this race unfolds.
All right, want to bring in race director Mike Weiss, our in real life race director, joining us here in the virtual Echelon Racing League. Mike, we were in the Hill yesterday. We talked about the flavor of the neighborhood, one of the cooler parts of racing at the Gateway Cup. Benton Park today, what's the neighborhood like where we're racing today?
It's a funky urban mix. We're St. Louis is a pretty old city on the riverfront city, and this is our closest race really to that history. So we're next to the Anheuser-Busch Brewery. We go right next to their campus. It's sort of a residential and commercial district. We go by all these cool like the one joint where there's sort of like the course touches itself out and back. That's usually like there's a bar called Venice Cafe there, and that's kind of the place to watch. But yeah, to your point, I mean it is a winding and twisty criterium. We use the term criterium loosely with this race.
Yeah, it's a tough one out there. Baked ravioli yesterday, and then the Anheuser-Busch campus today. We are just a few minutes away from getting the guys out on course here, so we're going to take a short break. When we come back, live racing from the Echelon Racing League Pro Men up next.
The world is changing.
I'm looking to do things better.
To improve.
Just because it's always been that way doesn't mean it's right.
I embrace change.
I seek adventure and discovery.
I explore the unexplored.
To know the unknown.
Even in the toughest moments, we ride together.
Even in the moments when we're at our limits.
We support each other. It's time to move up a level.
Push that little bit harder.
Changes we make now will make the future better for all.
The efforts we put in today
will pay dividends tomorrow.
We all have the power to up the game.
To build something better.
It's not time to play.
It's time to get real.
It's time to be a game changer.
As an athlete, getting marginally better is one thing. Getting exponentially better puts you in a whole new ballgame. Biomoto uses a proprietary digital process to capture movement at 200 frames per second and 70 sensors per foot to measure ground-based forces, resulting in advanced motion analysis that's up to 10 times more accurate than orthotics. It's the data generated by this process that allows Biomoto to construct custom insoles that make athletes faster, stronger, and more stable, and result in an unprecedented 95% success rate.
Normatec recovery systems give you a high-tech compression massage for warm-up pre-workout and recovery post-workout.
The technology is very safe and is used by a broad range of athletic types and really any fitness enthusiast looking to get the most out of their workout.
The whole idea is that we're using air compression to help increase circulation in the body. We wanted to mimic physiology, the way the body moves fluids. We went ahead and took a lot of those principles and put it into a system that you can use on your different extremities and your hips as well.
Normatec has been an industry leader in pneumatic compression, providing improved mobility and profound healing for thousands of patients. We continually work with researchers to study and develop the effectiveness of our technology.
It's all about creating that community space where people have a conversation around recovery and start really challenging their beliefs in what is possible and what they've known and maybe what could be.
All eyes on Matt Moen, yesterday's winner at the Giro della Montagna, back for more today after graduating from the amateur series and making his way up to the pro ranks here to race this weekend with the Insured, presented by Pedal Power Team, formerly the EVOC Bike Squad. What a great story for Mo, and really just shows how much talent is out there, Frank, and there's a lot of untapped talent that we're discovering here in the ERL, from riders that have gone on to race at the Esports World Championships to riders that are just graduating from the garage to come into the pro ranks. It has been awesome watching the last few weeks of the Echelon Racing League here.
About RGT in and of itself is that, RGT, the basic membership is free. The Echelon Racing League amateur races are free. And so you really start to get open that aperture for the amount of new riders that can be showcased and can show their abilities.
All right, well, our field underway and racing as pro men take off for 18 laps of the circuit out there today. You see our Zoom room as the riders do the standard RGT start here. Frank, I know you've done this several times before, but just take us through the importance of a start here on the RGT platform.
Yeah, so, the best way to do it is when you get to the 3 to 5 second mark before the start, you really want to get your power up and make sure your avatar is pedaling in place so that when that green flag drops, it kind of rockets you out of the start line. RGT did do a update. They're really great about the feedback, and so for the first 100 meters, they turn collision detection off to make sure the starts are nice and smooth. As you can see, we've got 50 riders in the field here riding together, and I'm really curious to see how these 10 turns are going to affect this large field.
Yeah, at one point it looked like a Category 5 cyclocross start out there. Everyone was just banging into each other, and it was really tough to get there because you had to be at the front of the group to have a good start. Otherwise, the game was blocking riders at the back. That's how realistic it is. And that does turn on later in the game where you have to be at the front of the group if you're trying to get away or trying to escape out of the group. So the racing dynamics, pretty interesting here on the RGT platform. All right, let's talk about today, Frank. Certainly a different course today. But does the racing change on a day like today? I mean, after you see maybe that you don't do so well in the sprint, can you change your strategy today, or is the course so different today that you can't really apply anything from yesterday?
No, I think what we've seen with the Echelon Racing League races thus far on RGT is that the virtual races tend to play out relatively similar to the way the real life races play out. So, on Benton Park, it's usually for the pro fields, either a reduced field sprint or, a large breakaway of, 8 to 12 riders or so. I'd be curious to see if we see a breakaway go today. I think, the potential is there.
Look at Matt Moen getting up to the front here early on, making sure he doesn't miss a move if it does go, and certainly a chance that we see a group try to escape out there today. Moen obviously on good form. There's a confidence boost as well, isn't there, Frank? When you're winning, it's much easier to have that feeling that I can win again the next day. When you're hot, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's a adrenaline boost, right? You have a ego boost, if you will, coming off a win, especially in a field of this magnitude.
Confidence watts, as they call them. See Alec Jones moving up on the left-hand side as well. Now take a look at the names up at the front, because there's a good chance that you'll see these guys for a majority of the day today. But just because they put up these big watts doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have a good result at the end of the day, Frank. If there's one thing that I've learned from watching the racing here, it's the importance of efficiency in racing in terms of your watts per kilogram. As you take a look at our top 5 power performers from the Armed Forces Cycling Classic, the last stop in the Echelon Racing League. These are the highest average watts per kilogram, but the results don't necessarily line up. So what I'm learning is that you can have massive legs, but if you're using that energy at the wrong time, it's going to be pretty easy to find yourself outside of the top 10.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, going back to real life racing, it's not always, and very rarely is, the strongest person wins the race. It's definitely the smartest and most efficient. Matt Moen's a great example of that. If you look at his power to weight average yesterday versus everyone else in the top 10, he had the second lowest out of everyone else in the top 10, coming in at under 4 watts per kilogram.
And then you see guys like Brian Hodges setting the tempo early. Now, Hodges going into the red zone here briefly, spending just a little bit of time lifting the tempo. I think he was sensing that things were just a little too easy out there. Now, Frank, we do have several teams that will be working together in this squad, including the Insured presented by Pedal Power squad. Hodges is an early hitter for these guys. He's a diesel truck that will get out front, really try to lift the tempo early and try to spit some riders out the back, make it as tough as they can early on.
Yeah, I think the goal here, what it looks like Inshore is trying to do is keep the pace high, keep it going hard, and just see what riffraff they can shell out of this field and get it down to brass tacks.
The other thing to watch as we watch the live video of these riders, the explosive nature right there. See how Hodges had to get out of the saddle so quickly? It's because they're trying to cover these gaps, Frank. If you lose that gap and lose the draft, you're really in trouble on the platform, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, right now these riders are doing 47K per hour, so it was at 25 to 27-ish, somewhere in there. So yeah, if you get more than a couple bike lengths off out of that draft at 27 miles an hour, get your head into the wind there, it's going to make the racing exceptionally harder for you.
Talked about Hodges earlier, trying to set tempo up on the front for the Ebach Bike Squad. That's exactly what's happening now. The now insured pedal power team is going to put some of these heavy hitters up to the front. And then it seems like Austenfeld and Thrall are their finishers, sort of their two sprinters when these come down to group sprints. Austenfeld and Thrall are the two riders that have been getting the wins for the Ebach Bike presented by Insured Squad. And here's Austenfeld taking a look off the front right now, maybe trying to flip the script today. So how about this effort from Neil Austenfeld?
This is a monster effort, Brady. Just steady 8 watts per kilogram for over a minute now. Again, I think they're just trying to thin out the field. It's easier to win against 10 guys than it is 50 guys.
Some of this, now we see these guys go into the red. It's not always a planned attack. Sometimes you see either a lag in the riders responding to the power or the lag in the power registering in the game. So sometimes it's just trying to close a gap, and then that sort of translates to looking like a small breakaway off the front. You'll see the same thing when you see the riders shoot up the outside of the group. When you see guys go through the group really quickly, that's usually them just overcompensating as they were getting dropped off the back and then trying to get back in. Frank, it's an art form. Just like painting, you got to have just the right touch. You got to be an artist out there on the bike.
Yeah, I like to compare it. It looks like it looks like road racing, a virtual version of road racing. But I think I see it from a mental aspect. It's a lot like single track mountain bike racing, where you're just hyper aware of everything going on around you because you don't want that gap to mysteriously open up, or you stop paying attention for 10 seconds, and next thing you know, you go from 5th wheel to 30th wheel, and you're on the outside of the turn and getting gapped off.
Yeah, it's really amazing how the physics can play into those corners. We'll talk about how you can see it in the game, both in the shape of the group and what's on there called their GUI, the graphical user interface. That's all the information that you see around the outside of the screen. Charlie Revel for Team Tour 2000 has the best home camera setup that I've ever seen here, Frank. This guy's sending us 2 angles. We got his reaction cam on the front, and then pretty cool to see his setup, what the riders are looking at from on the trainer. It's always fun to see everyone's different pain cave setup and how they've adapted to training and riding. And it looks like Charlie is in the basement. I think I see some cinder blocks there in front of him. Good setup for Revel.
Yeah, that one makes me kind of jealous of his.
Look, he's got the fan mounted up top, and I think that might be his internet junction box right there. You got to go straight to the source to get the fastest internet possible for RGT. He's a true gamer.
Oh yeah, no, I will say, Mallory McCrossy and I, we have hard. You want to make sure you mitigate any risk involved, right? Of you want to try to keep everything in your control. So, we, don't want to rely on wireless due to dropouts. So we hardwire our computers to the internet so that, you get the best bandwidth and minimize the risk of dropouts.
Yeah, we've actually seen technicals take some pretty have some pretty major effects on several races where riders either lost power or lost internet because of their location, and then that usually gets corrected pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think I think the biggest one that we've seen recently was Kristen Faulkner in the Women's Armed Forces Clarendon Cup last weekend, where she and Jackie Godby lapped the field, and then as Jackie Godby went to attack, Faulkner had a dropout and just she lost control for about 30 seconds, and that cost her the race.
Yeah, basically registers zero power until you get back into the game. So if you lose connection, it just shows you as a 0 until you reconnect. So every second that you're out of the game matters, because it's basically like your character is just not pedaling.
Yeah, we like to call them e-mechanicals, right? It's just, it's a thing that sometimes you just can't control that that occurs in a race, and that's racing. What's great with the RGT folks is when we do have dropouts like that. We had a rider or two yesterday that had some issues. They weren't sure if it was on their side or the platform side, and we reached out to the platform, and within a couple hours, we're talking 1 a.m. European time where they're located. They've been able to get back to us and say, we analyzed the data, here's what we think occurred, and tell us whether it was the setup of the rider or if there was, a data hiccup on their side. And we've been able to go back to the riders and give them a best practices of how to prevent that from occurring next time.
Yeah, we talked about how the riders are having to learn the platform, but really everyone is learning this virtual racing thing, from the verification to how we run the races to how we score the races to how we broadcast the races. We're still working on some things on our end here as well as we continue to wade into this new world here in the pandemic. Frank, we were talking about the pain caves earlier. Who says cyclists don't have any style? Look at this. I like the RGB lighting all around with these three guys. True gamers, right? Once you get the RGB lighting going with your rig.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a lot of these riders, a lot of us spend a lot of time, you figure these guys are putting in the same amount of hours and most of these guys are real racers on the road. So, in the winter, if they're on the trainer 15 hours a week, that's going to result in, that's a lot of time on the bike in the same spot. And you want to make it exciting and festive and a space you want to be in.
Bruce Bird enjoying some camera time here. We'll say hello to Bruce. I'm not sure you might be able to hear us on Zoom here. Hello, Bruce. Maybe not.
I'm actually surprised, to be completely honest, how big this group still is after 12 minutes of racing, Brad.
Yeah, pretty big group here. I think some tired legs, maybe a little post-holiday effect here, Frank.
Yeah, I think it's that, and I think honestly, we're now halfway through the Echelon Racing League. These racers have done 4 weekends of racing so far, and I think a lot of these guys, are getting a hang of the platform, and they're figuring out how to use those nuances to their benefit and race with the physics of the game.
The other thing that I think we're starting to see more and more of, Frank, is teamwork. The teams and riders are really starting to figure out how to play the platform well and how to use their teammates to their advantage. You are a rider on Project Echelon. You're taking this weekend off from racing, but I want to talk about the teamwork and kind of how you guys work together. We're going to be able to listen to Project Echelon's Discord throughout the day today. What kind of stuff are you guys talking about on the Discord? I mean, what is that communication like?
So we at Project Echelon, we have a director sportif for e-racing. It's John Hamlin. If you don't know John, he's a name in the Southeast United States for criterium racing. Just one of the smartest riders out there, and he's big into e-racing. Has been doing it for a while, and so we brought him on to help us out. But he'll go through, look at the courses. We'll meet on Discord about half an hour and do a team meeting just like you would in real life. And then, we talk, how the race might play out and what we should do, who to watch and what teams to watch, really. And it's, the criteriums, it's a lot harder, just like in real life, than it is a road race to work together. But you're able to, don't attack if your teammate's off the back. Don't chase a teammate down. Here's the top 3 guys to watch for this race based on race history. And it's really, it's exactly the same thing as the in-race radio, which makes it a lot easier to race. Just like in real life when you're not having to cover every move yourself, and there's no unknowns, as to who is doing what. You can push to talk and say, I need someone to cover this while I'm tired. So it's a lot like race day communications in real life race.
Let's see if we can hear some. I'm going to listen in on the Project Echelon Discord here. We'll just leave it and listen for a quick minute here.
They went way harder. Yeah.
We could make it hard, but who knows what that'll do.
Give it a whirl, Vogue. We'll see what happens.
Test that January fitness.
The downhill on the backside is definitely favorable for you. We call him fat. I mean, you calling him bigger than you. Take that as a compliment.
Frank, the downhill is favorable for you. That's my new favorite compliment.
Well, and he's talking with Stephen Bogle there, which we had Bogle I think took last weekend off. He did race the Gila, and he's the diesel engine of Project Echelon. The guy, I've never seen someone take an uphill KOM averaging something like 530 watts for 4 minutes. I mean, the guy's just a giant diesel locomotive. And when you need something brought back or you need a pace set, that's who we look to go to the front.
It's amazing how we're also starting to find roles in virtual racing as we continue to expand the complexity of racing here on the platform. We're seeing more and more riders sort of specialize in some different roles. Here's a look at Zach Nair and look at Neil Ostenfeld over here on the right-hand side of the picture. Neil from the Insured, presented by Pedal Power Squad. Looks like he has a massive fan setup going in the garage here.
I like his lighting. He's got this Zoolander Jesus look going.
Backlit and the fan, it's perfect.
Oh yeah, it's
not
great.
Quite as good as Cecilia June, who we had yesterday, with the steam coming off of her as she was out in the garage, obviously in a cold environment. But that was maybe the coolest rider call-in camera that we've ever had. So, Frank, still nobody getting away off the front. We did see some groups forming off the back, but for the most part, all the big players still in this group. A little surprising to see how big this group is so early, especially with so many turns here on the Benton Park course.
Yeah, I think one of the things Eric and I have been working on with the community is, with RGT, the way we create these real-life courses in the game, as Matt Moan goes up the road here, stringing it out. Is we with the magic, we create what RGT calls magic roads, and you send them a GPX file and they'll create it as a virtual course. Velez going off over the top of Moan here. They're really stringing it out now.
Yeah, just as I talked about how easy things were getting out there, it seems that they've lifted the tempo. So thank you very much to Matt Moen and Charlie Velez. They must be listening to the live stream here.
But yeah, so what we've done is worked with the community. A couple of the guys, one of them I believe is a geospatial engineer, so we send him our GPX file, and he helps us streamline it to make it look more like a race course, with the race lines than what you would get off of a standard Google Map course. And so I think what that's done is made these courses a lot more fluid and faster, if you will. After we do that, and then we send them to RGT for verification. The goal being that we want these to be as realistic and race-like as possible.
Yeah, a lot of feedback from the riders and feedback from the community as well. That goes back to you guys and then back to RGT, even week to week. I mean, if the amateur riders will report something, a lot of times we see some tweaks to those courses before the pro races start.
Yeah, no, absolutely. After last Sunday's race, I had 3 or 4 riders reach out and say, hey, this little jog in the turn here, and there was a little bump here, and we were able to go back and look at it and say, oh yeah, they're right. Let's go back and adjust a little, and then create a new course.
Ryan Rotherham taking a little look off the front here in the black kit of red kit, of Draft Racing. He's going to come back into the group. Rotherham almost had a stage win earlier. This was the guy that was caught just before the line. I mean, we're talking inside 50 meters. So I'd like to see Rotherham get a result after coming so close. Once you get a taste, you really want it a little more.
Yeah, like we were saying earlier, you're starting to see those familiar names go to the front. Jaden Yeager, Matt Usborne, Ben Thomas, Rotherham. These are the powerhouses of the Echelon Racing League. And I don't think many of them have gotten a result, although they are definitely putting out the numbers. But, there are team tactics, and a lot of teams are having their guys, go to the front and make racing hard so that the sprinters can do their thing at the end.
Yeah, it seems like there's a few teams in this group that are also looking at this field saying, all right, this is way too big, 33K to go. Usually they have this down to like 15 or 20 guys at this point. So the fact that the group is this big, I think also has some teams taking notice out there as well. Speaking of teams, support your favorite team at wearenations.com with the official Echelon Racing League gear. They've got t-shirts, hats, hoodies, all kinds of cool stuff up on the We Are Nations website. Each team has a line of products, and a portion of those proceeds go back to the teams and riders as well. So check out wearenations.com, get your official ERL gear. Frank, it's been cool seeing more and more people rocking their Nations gear, getting their team gear out there. I know a lot of folks had to come in for the holiday season, and a cool way to help support those teams and help them get to the next level.
Yeah, we are super excited to be able to work with We Are Nations to provide merchandise for these teams and a revenue share model for that merchandise sales to help support these teams. E-racing doesn't have as much overhead as real life racing, but it does still have some overhead. Riders do need some logistics stuff and trainers and power meters and heart rate monitors and kits and webcams. And so, any way we can help make this sport more equal and provide another revenue source for teams to be able to come out and do our races, we want to be sure to do that.
My favorite part is we can do whatever we want. There's nobody in Switzerland telling us that we can't.
Yeah, no, it's been nice so far. This is our biggest attack yet, Brad, and 30 meters from Bruce Bird here.
Yeah, Bird from the Draft Racing Squad going solo here. We were taking a look at him earlier. Maybe he's just looking for some more camera time. Maybe just want to get back on camera here as he goes under the 1K here. Wow, this is a big gap. You can see the distance to the right of their names. It's about 35 meters right now, but toying with 40. So I think he is gaining some time over Revel and Thomas here. Haven't talked a lot about Ben Thomas today. He's been pretty quiet, the series leader here of the Echelon Racing League, but that's why Ben Thomas is the series leader here, Frank. The guy is consistent, if nothing else. So only one win in the series for Thomas, but he's been top 10 just about every time he toes the line. So that's where he's really drawn his series lead from. Bird, though, looking for a stage win today, and he's trying to do it by getting away. He has gone deep. You can see his look on the zoom camera has changed significantly since we last saw him as they're riding a little easier.
Well, and it's interesting. You look at these power to weight numbers here, and the field does look to be bringing him back slowly, but it took the field kind of went wide and let him get a little bit of a leash there, which is where we're at now before anyone decided, oh, we need to bring that back.
See Ostenfeld also taking charge up at the front of the group. Again, this is where a team like Insured Pedal Power can really use their strength in numbers, or a team like Project Echelon will be able to send some guys up to the front and say, all right, let's go bring Bruce Bird back because maybe it's a little too early for a break, or we want to get a break going with us in it. So they either bridge or chase it, and it looks like they're going to chase this one back as Bird starts getting reeled back in by the front of the field. Valiant attempt, though. I like the riders that at least try something out there, Frank, because otherwise we're just watching a big group of riders race a video game, do a group ride. No one wants to do that. So thank you, Bruce Bird, for the attack.
Yeah, no, and what was interesting to see there, I don't know if you noticed it, but Chris Revel's Tour 2000 team, they had 5 guys at the front there to bring that back. They weren't taking any chances letting Bruce Bird go up the road there. Now it looks like Ruderham's going to try.
The old 1-2 from Draft Racing, although field going to respond to that one pretty quickly and shut that down as we see a little surge up the left side there. Here's Matt Usborne. First time we've seen him off the front today, but about the 400th time that we've seen him off the front in this series, Frank.
And if you look who's with him, he's got Mike Lister and Matt Moon. Mike Lister is one of the community riders. He's qualified for every weekend of racing so far, and he's one of the, we'll call him an RGT OG. He's been with RGT since the beginning. He hosts a team time trial series on RGT, manages a Discord channel for RGT community riders, and if you watch, he does race recap videos. He did one for the Armed Forces race last weekend, and it was really something to watch. Just how, we'll call him a master of the platform, navigates a race like this. It's really impressive to watch, and you can learn a lot.
It's been cool meeting everyone from the RGT community and sort of entering into this world that they've created over the last couple years, really, of racing on the platform. Amazing how many people have come together with their personal talents to help improve the community of racing and the software itself, the RGT app and platform.
Yeah, it's really great to see not just the community excited to help, but RGT excited and letting the community, eager for the community's help in developing all these secondary and tertiary efforts that are needed to make a good racing experience. You know, we've got our results platform on the Echelon Racing League website has been put together by a community member. There's a new website that's put together by a community member to help manage, to research and look up events and Magic Road courses. And then I think there's 5 or 6 different race series. Alex Legger, who's in this field, also does a Thursday night crit series, Mike Lister's TTT series. Mike Lister's also putting on a community stage race this weekend as well. So yeah, no, it's been really impressive to see the platform excited to work with the community and the community respond and bring about all this new great stuff.
Yeah, it's been a blast meeting our new friends, but it's also been fun hanging out with our old friends as well as we visit real races here on the Echelon Racing League schedule. You see our next events coming up. Looking forward to the Redlands Bicycle Classic. Then we're headed to Joe Martin Stage Race, and then one of my favorite races of the year, the Tour of America's Dairyland up in Wisconsin. Frank, it's the perfect bridge between our real-life racing community that we missed out so much on in 2020 and probably into 2021 here as we continue the march of the pandemic. But it's a great way to bring old friends together with the new friends that we've been meeting on the platform.
Yeah, we started Echelon Racing League as some one-off races just because with COVID there was no real-life racing, and what we found growing from that is the Echelon Racing League proper you see now, and it'll be refined and improved as we move on to next year, but we realized that this is a platform and a venue that we could utilize for the off-road season, the road off-season, where we can still showcase real-life bike racers, real-life teams, real-life courses, and so road racing doesn't fall into oblivion like you have, like we've seen through the winter every year thus far, especially for riders and teams who don't participate in cyclocross.
Talked about the community series as well. Registration now open for that at echelonracingleague.com. January 16th, the next community event for the Redlands Classic. They're, I think, doing the Sunset Loop course. Is that right, Frank?
Yes, it is. We actually got the courses yesterday, awesome. And we're refining them this weekend and hoping to get those Magic Road IDs and everything set up for the community events and sent out to everyone on Monday or Tuesday. If you are interested, echelonracingleague.com. Sign up for the amateur event and come try it out. It's free, it's fun. We have 4 categories for men and women, Cat 1 through 4, based on experience, not necessarily raw power. And we invite everyone to try it out. Like I said, the platform's free, the race league's free, and just good fun for everybody.
Yeah, Redlands, another one of those classic races. Really every race on the Echelon Racing League schedule is a classic American race. They're almost all part of what's called the PRT that we have here in the United States. That's the calendar that is run by USA Cycling, sort of their collection of best races in the United States. And see a lot of those showing up on the Echelon Racing League calendar. So, yeah, cool way for us to all sort of stay connected in a year apart, because there's a whole community out there that we're used to visiting every weekend, either via live streams or in person. But obviously, COVID here in 2020 and into 2021 has changed all that and changed the way that we race bikes and enjoy the events.
Yeah, I've heard a couple people refer to the Echelon Racing League as the virtual PRT, and we didn't set out with that in mind, but these are some of the classic, most well-known and historic races in the country that are still active today.
I want to bring in race director Mike Weiss here from the Gateway Cup. Mike, we are on day 2 of our virtual Gateway Cup today, but you guys do 4 days of racing total for the Gateway Cup weekend. Take me through the weekend of racing.
Yeah, we start Lafayette Square on Friday night. It's the dreaded nighttime crit, but it's bone flat, and it is really like gets your legs going. It's probably one of the fastest crits in the country. It's usually, for the pro guys, it's probably about a 30-mile-per-hour average, and it's in a beautiful French neighborhood. And then the next day, we kind of wake up in this sleepy, like, kind of Archie bunker community called St. Louis Hills. It's just this really, really kind of tight-knit community, and it's a giant park again. So it's, 2 four-corner crits, but they're different. In Francis Park, just kind of, it's just a beautiful day outdoors. Wide open race. I mean, there's probably 6 lanes around. And then, the Giro is sort of, that's kind of our high point of the weekend. It's just the Italian community just kind of goes bananas. It's like, they're bringing a little bit of Europe to American criterium racing, and it's just a really cool blend. And then all the restaurants, we talked about yesterday, just get into it, get into sharing. And then, unfortunately at Benton Park, what's going on right now in front of us is easily the hardest race of the 4 days. I mean, it is a battle just to survive. And it's, what Frank said is right. The cream will rise to the top on this course. It's always a small selection, and I'm always amazed by not only the guys that finish at the front, but the guys that hang on.
Maybe one of the coolest parts of the Gateway Cup is the history. I mean, this one goes back to 85, I think, the first Giro della Montagna. I got some pictures from Joe Teresi, who was the first race promoter of the very first Giro della Montagna. Things look pretty different back in the first edition of the Gateway Cup. I love the campy neutral support, the Campagnolo support wagon. Doesn't get more classic than that. You knew it was a big deal. And then, how about this? The Killian's team, you remember that? Some things change, some things stay the same. Riders still showing up in vans to bike races, and pretty cool look at the finish line here at the Giro. No fencing back in the day. Joe said they just asked the fans to stay on the side of the road, and that was plenty. So, and of course, they had the 7-Eleven team, some of the best riders in the world showing up to the Giro della Montagna. It was really cool to see so many riders out there. Mike, an incredible history, and it continues here with the Gateway Cup. So thanks for all that you do, and a new tradition here as well with the virtual Gateway Cup. So we're about halfway through. We're going to check back in with Mike here in just a bit as we continue our virtual Gateway Cup. But Frank, halfway through, groups still together. These guys just cannot get away today.
Yeah, it's looking like we've got about 40 riders of the original 58 that started. And I think the big difference we're seeing today versus the previous races is I haven't seen any real. We've seen a couple attacks, but we haven't seen an all-out attack. It looks like they're kind of just testing the waters, teasing it out, seeing what they can get away with. But I haven't seen an all-out I want to get away type attack from anyone yet.
Seeing some new names come to the front here as well, as I think this is probably because they're using the elevation in the turns to their advantage. See Ben Thomas sitting at the back there trying to be as efficient as he can. It is starting to shrink, though, Frank. We are starting to lose some riders. You can really see the shape of the field here. You see how it stretches out coming out of the turn, and there's even like a pace line, an echelon going here from the left to right on the road here for the riders. So you can really see up above how real the dynamics of the game are.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting that you see this when you compare it to other platforms is, the field right now is doing 50K per hour, 44K per hour. But to do these speeds, to do 27 to 30 miles an hour, what we're seeing is there's guys on the front doing, right now it's 500 to 600 watts to drive that pace. It's there's not a bubble there. It's if we're doing that speed, someone's putting the work in to get to that speed.
Yeah, and it looks like here it was Will Harden picking the tempo up at the front. Here goes Rudderham again with Usborne. So if you're holding on to the back of this group right now, your alarm bells are ringing because this is about to get a lot faster and a lot harder with Will Harden in front. You're just going to leave me hanging on that one, Frank? You got to be kidding.
Yeah, I had nothing. That was a good one. I'll give you that one.
It was terrible. That's why it was so good.
What is a bike race without dad jokes?
There you go. Looks like Vogel taking a look off the front here. Wow.
So this is the type of attack I was saying. We haven't seen anything all out yet, and like I said, Vogel is a diesel engine, just a monster. Right now 600 watts at 6.5 watts per kilogram. He's putting in a move, and we're actually working with our real life director sportif and Eric Hill and everyone from Project Echelon to set up Vogel to try for the American hour record later this season as well. So I'm curious to see what he can hold for the remaining 20 kilometers.
Look at this massive wattage as he goes into the red here.
Responding.
Let's listen in.
Looking good,
120 meters.
Can somebody be ready to go as soon as they bring him back? If they bring him back?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I'll go.
All right.
Well, there you go, Frank. Sounds like Project Echelon thinking 3 steps ahead here. They've already got a plan for if things come back. That sounded like Eric Hill saying, I'm feeling good. I'll go if he comes back.
Yeah, I'm interested. That was Eric. I'm interested to see how the field responds. It's one of those, every team can have a plan and even think they have the perfect plan. But, there's, in this group specifically, 36 other people that might have a plan somewhat similar as well. So I'm curious to see what they say. But right now, Vogel's sitting about 110 to 120 meters off the front.
This is a tough spot for Vogel, too, because it doesn't look like he's going to be getting any help here. So 100 meters up the road and all by yourself with 20 kilometers of race to go, Frank. I mean, what do you do here if you're Stephen Vogel?
I think if you're Vogel, you commit. You hope the field, outside, out of mind, especially on a course with 10 turns. And, if you think you've got it, you commit.
Yeah, this has got to be all in for Vogel here. Looks like Rudderham and Jaeger going to take up the chase. Rudderham for draft and Jaeger for restart racing. Jen Jaeger, another one of those diesel trucks in this field, riding for the Restart Racing squad. He was also on that Esports Worlds team representing the United States at the Esports World Championships earlier this year. So these are tough guys to have on the front if you're Vogel in Project Echelon, because they are putting the big guns up here for sure. And you can see it's working. They're down to 42 meters to bring Stephen Vogel back, but all the credit in the world to Project Echelon for this move. We talked earlier about the need for riders to try to mix things up. That's exactly what Vogel's doing, and I love it.
Yeah, he's jumping at every turn. He's not making it easy for them to bring him back. He's definitely committed, and I'm curious to see what kind of havoc this wreaks on the field once he is caught.
Looks like a few riders trying to come off the front of the group, but they're going to drag the entire group with them here, as it'll be Ben Thomas. That's going to be Bruce Bird. Here's Eric Hill, who we talked about earlier, being ready for Project Echelon to counter the move. So watch Hill. That's him in the sort of turquoise blue Project Echelon jersey. We'll see if he goes over the top of Vogel. I think he will, and try to launch again. Project Echelon definitely wants to get something split here, Frank.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, being on the team, I wish I knew what the plan was, but I'm curious to see what happens next. They talked about Eric Hill going off the front next, but also you see Usborne here putting power down as well, not seeming to want to let anything go up the road.
Doesn't look like they were able to get anyone away off the front here, because guys like Ben Thomas went to the front and started setting tempo. Ostenfeld was there as well to cover things. And we take a look at Ostenfeld and Matt Usborne here, who I would expect to see off the front again before the end of this one, Frank. Usborne has been surprisingly quiet today. He's usually one of the guys that in the first 20 or 30 minutes is really trying to up the tempo, but it seemed like there were plenty of volunteers today, so Usborne didn't have to take his normal role. Ruderham has been that guy today for me.
Yeah, no, Ruderham, we've seen him a lot with his face in the wind. Really curious to see who they're racing for. If Ruderham's doing a lot of work, and I hope it's all for naught. I hope it's not all for naught. And I think we'll see Usborne start to showcase some power now that we're into the final 16K. I think we're going to start seeing as Mike was saying, the cream rise to the top. I think the familiar names are going to get to the front, and we're going to see some hard racing for the next 20 minutes.
All right, so this is going to be 6 laps to go as they hit the line here. So we'll start ticking off the laps here, Frank. Pretty long circuit, much longer than we saw yesterday. Relatively short course at the Giro della Montagna, but all the turns in this one certainly add to the difference here in Benton Park. And a little more wide open, too. Those overpasses in real life where you're going over the freeway, it's exposed to the wind if it's a windy day, but pretty wide as well.
Yeah, the course is extremely technical, 10 turns with a little uphill and a little downhill, but it's not so technical that it's hard to navigate or in a field. It's easy to move around, easy to move up. Where it gets really hard is on that back stretch where the S turn is when you have to jump out of turn after turn after turn. It's people that can't efficiently turn a bike are really expending a lot more energy than those who aren't touching their brakes. And so it's just, with it being 10 turns, at 18 laps, you're talking 180 turns. And so that's a lot of jumping, especially if you're, going into the red every time you come out of one of those turns.
Yeah, and I think that's even exaggerated more on the platform here on RGT. So they're paying for every single one of those turns. We saw it with the Armed Forces Cycling Classic, too. They call that one the race of 500 turns because it's a 5-turn course. The pro men do 100 laps, 100K, so it wears on you for sure. The turns are what make criterium racing so tough because it's not about riding an hour. It's about the constant up and down effort. You're basically interval training for a better part of a couple hours, Frank.
And, talking about the field wearing down, it looks like we're at, we're down to about 30 riders here, I believe. We've dropped another handful with all these attacks going the last few laps. And as we say that, here's Charlie Velez from Canyon Esports going off the front. And Matt Moon going over the top. –
Seeing a lot of the jerseys starting to mass up together here as well. You see a couple Project Echelon jerseys here together. The Tour 2000 riders linking up there. You see those two blue jerseys. Look like some of the Canyon Esports riders linking up there, but they're doing a nice job of sitting in here, Frank. I don't think I've seen one of those purple and blue jerseys at the front all day, except for Charlie Velez. Everyone else has really just been doing a nice job sitting in, saving their energy for the finish day. Some smart racing from the Canyon Esports guys.
Yeah, I'm honestly curious with the way this has been raced, the first half of it anyway. If the course wasn't intimidating to the riders, they see 10 turns, they know that's going to be a significant effort. And so, it seemed to start off a little bit more calmer than previous races.
Nice feathering there by the Evoc bike riders. I just noticed them coming up the outside and then letting off the gas, coasting up to the front. Frank, am I right in thinking that when we see the guys coasting on the game, that means that they're coasting in real life? Is it pretty accurate how that zeroes out?
Yes, it is, except for, I will say, in the turns. So when your avatar hits his brakes, we'll see Usborne's maybe do it here in a minute, where his power number goes red. When your power number goes red, that means you're going faster than you can, whether it's you're about to run into someone in front of you or go through a turn too fast. And so your rider will, I call it hitting the digital brakes. And so in doing that in the game, your rider will coast through the turn if he's hitting the brakes, regardless of if you're pedaling or not.
Usborne taking a look off the front here, but he will be reeled back in. And we'll talk more about that GUI as it becomes more important here closer to the finish, because we'll be watching those power numbers a little more closely as well as the guys get ready to sprint to the line. Here goes Jaden Yeager taking a look off the front. Now, Yeager was an early season success story here in the Echelon Racing League. He pretty much dominated the league in the first few weeks of racing, then raced the Esports World Championships, took a little bit of time off for restart racing, but looks like he's back with a vengeance here, Frank.
Yeah, and the field's kind of hesitating, not really chasing. If you look at the comparison of his power output versus Chris Naven and Warner there, they're kind of giving him a little bit of a leash, probably seeing what's going to happen. I'm wondering if someone's going to try to bridge here in a second, or if they're just going to try to slowly reel him back in and let him cook out there a little bit.
There's not many guys left at this point.
Yeah, no, and to be honest, it could be, this is a dangerous move. Giving Jaden Yeager a little bit of leash is not smart, whether you're racing in real life against him or on a video game or on a digital platform. He's a diesel engine, and he won the first test event for the Echelon Racing League by going solo from a few kilometers out. Similar to this move, and it does look like they're going to bring him back.
Hayden Warner goes over the top here. This is how these splits form, isn't it, Frank? It's not the initial attack, but it's the counter move that always seems to go and stick.
Yeah, it's someone else going, and then someone else going, and then someone else going, and every time someone else goes, there's more guys in the field looking around going, I'm not chasing that down. Well, I'm not going to chase it down. You chase it down. And, it's that what really a breakaway needs to be successful here is the teamwork, and then the hesitation from the field to chase it to get that gap open enough to where they can have something to work with.
Usborne hitting the gas again on the front, as they're going to see 4 laps to go on the counter when they come through. Now, we talked to Frank earlier about the efficiency of riding and the importance of not wasting your energy on the bike. Usborne knows what he's doing here. I don't want to make Usborne seem like he's an inefficient rider, because his riding style is trying to get a break going, right? Trying to win out of the group. So it's not that Usborne is wasting energy here on the front, but this is why he always has such a high average watts per kilogram, because he's not afraid to make moves like that, not afraid to try to cause splits and try to go off the front. It hasn't paid off yet, but I'm convinced that it will before the end of the season for Usborne.
Yeah, I think Usborne's going to have his day. He's definitely up there, just always making the action, and it's one of those, the solo breakaway only works 1% of the time, right? So if you try it 100 times, you're going to win eventually.
We are on day, 7, 8 of the Echelon Racing League? It might be a while then before we see Usborne get a stage win, but it's coming. Just hang in there. Well, taking a look at some more of our riders in the Zoom room. Everyone looking pretty calm right now as Bruce Bird takes a look off the front. These guys still haven't responded. That's Alex Plager down in the bottom right, Will Harden in the bottom left, Brian Hodges from Insured Pedal Power up in the top left, and then Hayden Warner up in the top right. 4 guys that have really been mixing it up in the front of this group, but nobody's been more aggressive in the last couple minutes than Bruce Bird, as he's going solo off the front right now, Frank.
Yeah, Bruce has been super active, and again, between him and his teammates, I think Draft might be the most combative team today. They've just sending rider after rider off the front, and it doesn't look like the field's really trying to respond too fast here. They're not jumping to chase him down. They're just going to slowly reel him in, I think, over this last 10K.
Yeah, definitely easy to overlook a guy like Bruce Bird in a move like this inside 10K. It's easy to say that's way too far for a solo rider to go, but there's a few riders in this race that could do it. Jay Yeager, I think, is one of them that I would say could probably do that 10K solo effort. So this field should definitely be worried about Bruce Bird on the front. Now, Bird is sitting with lapped riders right now. All these guys around him are riders that he caught and are sitting a lap down. So he's not getting any advantage for them as he's sitting on the front. He's going to go by him here pretty soon. But a little confusing with the lap traffic. And yeah, this is going to be Hodges coming up right now. Good call, Frank.
Yeah, Hodges went across. Looks like Bird's going to jump onto his wheel. And it looks like Eric Hill's trying to get across as well. One of the things we have done as we continue to develop the race league is we have, reached out to team directors. We try to work with them and the riders super close. We view the teams and the riders as partners in this. And we have asked, if you are a lapped rider, when the main field catches you, it's hard to sit on the back of a field in a virtual game like you would in real life. So what we've asked them to do is just stop pedaling and let the field go by, and then they can keep racing, just so that the lap traffic does not affect the race.
Look at Bruce Bird down in the bottom right of your picture. That's Bird and Hodges on camera. We're trying to work together to try to get away. And it looks like Hodges has come back into the group, and I think Bird back in there as well. Yeah, so that one has been shut down, and now Crane having a little look-see on the front. I see Jonathan Crane getting in the Gateway Cup spirit here. I think he's got, I think this is a photo from one of the Gateway stages. I see the Big Shark Bike Race Company banner in the background. That was the dead giveaway for me. This is the year Daniel Holloway was in Stars and Stripes here for, I think that's the Alto Velo team. Well, back a few years.
Crane giving us a little wave. Velez trying to take a look off the front now.
Yeah, Charlie Velez is a hitter too. It's been really interesting watching his role on this Canyon Esports team. Remember, he took some wins earlier in the season, but not afraid to sort of switch roles and help out the team when we saw Ollie Jones take the win.
Yeah, I think Charlie, he's a younger guy, super strong. We saw him on the very first race weekend, the Stelvio climb. He he felt good, and after taking the win on the Paterberg, really hit it and was looking as the favorite to win the Stelvio until he ran out of gas about 2K from the top. But just a really good talent, really great rider on the Canyon Esports Devo team, and we're going to see him, I think, making some waves, not only in e-racing, but in real-life racing as he matures and gets grows up a little into a real bike racer.
He is hammering that effort up on the front here as he goes into the sort of orange-red power zone. Bird is going to go with him, and then Tom Thrall looks like will be the guy from Insured Pedal Power that they're going to assign to try to go with him and try to join these two. I like this move, though. Velez and Bird can link up here, Frank. This is a dangerous move for the guys back in the field. 6K to go. They can absolutely do this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think this is where the team tactics is going to come in, because it's going to be Project Echelon, Tor, and Restart who are going to, and Above and Beyond Cancer. The four big teams in this field are going to have to go to the front and bring it back and not look at each other to try to assign the role to someone else in the field.
Yeah, and then maybe the bigger question is, as we heard with Project Echelon, who's next? If this one comes back, who's next on deck to go? Because I guarantee you both of these teams have a plan, and it's about to get executed here at 2 laps to go. They come back into the fold. We're all back together, and now let's see who will be in attack round 3 to try to roll off the front. Eric Hill back up to the front here into the red zone.
Yeah, 5K to go. This is a good move for Eric Hill. If they give him a little bit of a gap, he's going to be able to just sit in and do his 5-minute effort to try to open this gap up a bit more and get to that finish line first.
Got to be frustrating for Hill here, though, going, where's everyone that wanted to be in the breakaway now? Because he's not getting any help, nobody going to join him. In fact, looks like Hodges and company sitting up at the front of the field going to shut this one down. So Hill not getting any love out there from the group.
But it's looking like Vogel going again over the top of Eric.
Maybe Hill was just a setup for Steven Vogel here. Going again. Second big move of the day for Vogel.
Yeah, this could be dangerous if the field doesn't respond quick and if Vogel's feeling good. 4K to go. Lap and a half.
Charlie Revel taking up the chase effort up at the front of the field. Frank, we were talking with Eric Hill earlier before the start of the stage about this course in real life, his experience racing at Benton Park. Said this is where he had the best results because you can really use your power on this course. And now Steven Vogel getting to go at it. So this is the course that Project Echelon tapped for a win this weekend for the squad. And certainly an impressive show of teamwork here. Here goes Charlie Revel pushing again, trying to get up to Steven Vogel.
Yeah, I think what's interesting, when you see these riders attacking off the front or, trying to bridge across, and maybe Revel wasn't trying to get all the way across, but, we're not really seeing, other than Vogel, and I think Bruce Bird had a decent one, you're not seeing, like you do in real life where it's, that all-out 10-second sprint and then settle in and pedal efforts. You're seeing the guys attack at, 7 to 9 watts per kilogram, which is not nothing, but it's not enough to break that rubber band. You know, Vogel's shooting at 10 to 11 watts per kilogram for 10 seconds and then settling in at 5 to 6. You know, looking there's 500, 600 watts. That requires a major effort to bring that back, and you know he's trying to snap that rubber band now.
Yeah, this is it for Steven Vogel here, as he's going to go all in for the final lap of racing at 2.5K to go. And we're heading out on our final lap here, Frank, so we're bringing in our official last lap bell from race director Mike Weiss. Sorry, we were a little late on that. That was my bad. These guys are flying out there. The lap times are starting to drop more and more with each lap, as Vogel has really lifted the speed out there today. And now in an all-or-nothing move, holding steady at 6 watts per kilo. Oy, 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 that looks painful.
Yeah, we're going to have to get a webcam for Vogel. I'm curious to see the look on his face right now. This is a monster effort. It looked like Restart Racing and Insured were on the front trying to bring it back with Yeager and Matt Moon. We'll see what happens. It looks like he's about to get caught, though.
Mullen, Swart, and company taking up chase at the front, doing a nice job working together. That is one of the bummers for Vogel here, is that the guys back in the field have really done a nice job of working together as a group to bring them back. Definitely a cohesive effort back there. Here goes Mullen on the front. Revel is there, Swart, but watch the names further at the back. I don't know that these guys are really where they want to be right now doing the work to bring this one back. It's the guys in the second or third row back there that are going to be getting a little bit more of a draft, but they just can't seem to shut it down on Vogel. Frank, I hate to get ahead of myself here. I would hope that Vogel can make it, but if experience is anything like our last few stages, I think Vogel gets caught on the start-finish stretch. We've seen so many of these come so close to the line, but it just hasn't worked out yet for a solo jump to the line.
Yeah, he's put in a monster effort here. But, you know, I do think the race is going to come down to a sprint. You know, the names we haven't seen since the beginning, Heinlein from Project Echelon, Ostenfeld from Insured, Ben Thomas, John Cooper from Triple X Athletica. You know, I do think there's been quite a bit of talent hiding in this field, and I think they're going to come to the front here in about 1 kilometer.
Yeah, they just hit 1K to go, so we're at about 800 meters now. Looks like Vogel going to get swallowed up in this corner, so we'll cross him off the list, and we are all back together here, Frank. As predicted, the field sprint coming to the line in the last K of the Benton Park criteria. Vogel spit out the back. That's it for him. We said all or nothing, and he is done for the day. So take a look at the show on the front. Somebody trying to move up the left side of the group. Alec Jones on the pointy end of the field here at 400 meters to go. Here comes Mike Swart up the inside. Ben Thomas is making an appearance as well. Thomas could be a good pick today, Frank. Haven't heard a lot from him so far.
We got looks like a 3-person Insured lead-out train as well as a Tour 2000. Canyon hitting it hard. Charlie Velez going early. There we go. Insured, all three Insured on the front. Matt
Here goes Moen to the front.
Again.
Wow. Well, Matt Moen goes 2 for 2 this weekend. After graduating from the amateur ranks, he moves up to the pro races for the Giro della Montagna, and then gets the win on day 2 here in Benton Park. Matt Moen, 2 in a row here in the Echelon Racing League. How about Steven Vogel today? Ride of the day for me. I love an effort that goes all in.
What a move by Moen to take that
like that from Vogel. But yeah, Moen, a huge ride, and he is cooked after that effort. He had a little bit of energy to throw up a high five, but going deep on that one. By the way, his bike is the one closest to the camera. I think the one furthest away is maybe for his training partner. Frank will bring the rest of our riders in, try and get through our top 10 or so. Let the rest of these guys finish up. A lot of these riders you'll see are the names that we talked about early on, the guys that put in the big effort early and then got popped like Hodges. All right, so watching Mike Lister on the way in here as he finishes up. Ravel in for second. You see on the board there to the left-hand side of the screen as, again, we're just trying to wrap up our top 20 riders. Keep an eye on as many riders as we can back in the group as they complete the 16 laps of the Benton Park. All right, let's go over to our Zoom room and see if we can grab a word with our winner. Matt, congratulations. Can you hear us?
Yes.
All right, 2 for 2 this weekend. Welcome to the Echelon Racing League, my friend. Seems like you've got quite the esports career ahead of you here.
Yeah, that's, I don't even know what to say. That's pretty crazy. I'm right now. Really hard, and even harder. It's always attacking. To see somebody was always in the red.
Hey, sorry, having a little trouble hearing you. I'm not sure if that's on our end or yours, but 2 days of racing. Are you going to continue racing here in the Echelon Racing League? Will we see more of you in the pro ranks?
Yeah, I plan to do some more races. You know, these were a couple crit races. I think the next ones coming up are more maybe road races, so that might be a little bit different dynamic, and excited to help the team out. And, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun over the next couple months.
All right, looking forward to seeing the new face here in the pro ranks. Congratulations, Matt. 2 wins this weekend at the Virtual Gateway Cup, and hope to see you in person in St. Louis as well. Are we going to see you racing in real life when things open up again?
Yeah, I hope so. I can't wait to get back outside. I love racing my bike outside, and this is a great substitute. You know, right now, I'm great exposure. St. Louis, it's a great race. Love St. Louis. Yeah, I hope to get down there maybe 2021.
All right, we'll see you there. Congratulations, Matt Mullen, our 2-day winner here at the Virtual Gateway Cup. All right, so Frank, let's take a look at the rest of the results. Looking back down the top 10 as Moen comes in. Pretty big gap, actually, all things considered, in virtual racing here for the Echelon Racing League at 10 hundredths of a second ahead of Charlie Revel. Pretty close with Campbell Parrish taking third. Nice to see a new name on the podium for the Above and Beyond Cancer presented by Bike World team. Jonathan Crane ends up fourth, an impressive ride for him for the Restart Racing squad. He was really aggressive throughout the day, and Neil Ostenfeld ends up 5th place for the insured pedal power team, formerly Evoc Bike. An impressive ride for Moen today. I am shocked that this guy came out of the amateur league here to take 2 back-to-back wins this weekend, Frank. What a ride for Moen. What a weekend for Moen.
Yeah, you know, I really think Matt has figured out his strength in the platform. You know, you look at his average power to weight, he's not going off the front trying to get a solo attack. He's not expending energy when he doesn't need to, and then he's throwing down an 18 watt per kilogram sprint to just really dust the competition.
Yeah, amazing how different each weekend of racing has been here in the pro men's field at the Echelon Racing League. We've had a dominant leader in the women's series with Jackie Godby, but the men, we've been seeing new winners almost every week. So it's been really interesting to watch the new names coming to the top of the leaderboard. And oftentimes, Frank, we can kind of track the riders learning the platform. Like Campbell Parrish, there might be a good chance that we see that name again later in the series as he starts to move his way up the leaderboard. All right, we're about 30 minutes away from our pro women's race getting underway. So we're going to take a short break and we'll be back with more live racing from the Echelon Racing League.
The world is changing.
I'm looking to do things better.
To improve.
Just because it's always been that way doesn't mean it's right.
I embrace change.
I seek adventure and discovery.
I explore the unexplored.
To know the unknown.
Even in the toughest moments, we ride together.
Even in the moments when we're at our limits.
We support each other. It's time to move up a level.
To push that little bit harder.
Changes we make now will make the future better for all.
The efforts we put in today
will pay dividends tomorrow.
We all have the power to up the game.
To build something better.
It's not time to play.
It's time to get real.
It's time to be a game changer.
As an athlete, getting marginally better is one thing. Getting exponentially better puts you in a whole new ballgame. Biomoto uses a proprietary digital process to capture movement at 200 frames per second and 70 sensors per foot to measure ground-based forces, resulting in advanced motion analysis that's up to 10 times more accurate than orthotics. It's the data generated by this process that allows Biomoto to construct custom insoles that make athletes faster, stronger, and more stable, and result in an unprecedented 95% success rate.
Normatec recovery systems give you a high-tech compression massage for warm-up pre-workout and recovery post-workout.
The technology is very safe and is used by a broad range of athletic types and really any fitness enthusiast looking to get the most out of their workout.
The whole idea is that we're using air compression to help increase circulation in the body. We wanted to mimic physiology, the way the body moves fluids. We went ahead and took a lot of those principles and put it into a system that you can use on your different extremities and your hips as well.
Normatec has been an industry leader in pneumatic compression, providing improved mobility and profound healing for thousands of patients. We continually work with researchers to study and develop the effectiveness of our technology.
It's all about creating that community space where people have a conversation around recovery and start really challenging their beliefs in what is possible and what they've known and maybe what could be.
The 2020 Echelon Racing League is presented by Project Echelon, educating, equipping, and empowering veterans through physical activity. Series also presented by HyperIce. Move better and enhance your recovery with HyperIce. By Biomoto. Find the motor in you. Visit a Biomoto store in Wisconsin or Colorado to find the motor in you. And by Nations, enhancing the reach of esports, including the Echelon Racing League. All right, pro men just wrapping up here in virtual St. Louis as our pro women are just about 20 minutes away from their race start. So we're going to take a short break here and sign off as we get ready to send our pro women out for 18 laps of the Benton Park Criterium course. We'll be back in about 10 minutes at the Echelon Racing League. Welcome to St. Louis, Missouri. Nestled along the banks of the mighty Mississippi, the home of the world-famous Gateway Arch, the less famous St. Louis Cardinals, and the starting point for Lewis and Clark's journey out west. But its most famous export, the Gateway Cup. And today, the virtual Gateway Cup and the Echelon Racing League as the riders tackle the Benton Park Criterium after the Giro della Montagna yesterday at the virtual Gateway Cup in the ERL. And welcome back. Brad Soner here with Frank Cundiff as we wrap up our pro men's race and get ready for pro women's field. Coming up here, same distance, 16 laps around the Benton Park course here. Frank, before we get to our predictions for today, let's go back and look at how things played out yesterday at the Giro della Montagna for the pro women's field. Another close one out there, although not for lack of effort. This was another one where we saw a lot of attacks out there on the road.
Yeah, this was Laura Matson-Coe's new to the Echelon Racing League, not new to E-Racing at all, being on the E-Worlds USA team. Really curious to see if she was going to be able to be the one to defeat Jackie Godby. And she came close, but not quite there.
Yeah, Godby did what Godby does best with her sixth, maybe seventh stage win for the Echelon Racing League yesterday in the Giro della Montagna, and by a pretty wide margin as well. It was pretty impressive, and of course she had her Dove chocolate for her post-race recovery, so should be in good shape for the start today as Laura Matson-Coe will be looking for a little bit of redemption for the Evok Bike and Short presented by Pedal Power Squad. You can see how close she was to Jackie Godby yesterday. Also going to be keeping an eye on Kirsten Pohl for the Canyon Esports team. Had a good result in third, with Christina Grossman in fourth yesterday and Christy Tracy in fifth place overall. Now, Jackie Godby has been misconsistency for the Echelon Racing League over the last, what has been 7 stages of racing, Frank, with 3 stops of stage races. So Godby comes into this one with a pretty significant lead in the series competition, but Krista Double Hickok has been consistent as well, showing up every single day to race. She's still got about 60 points to overcome to get up to Godby, but it could be done. The other one I'm watching is the battle for third, fourth, and fifth. Elena O'Mara out of this one with illness, so Eleanor Wiseman, Stephanie Sidlick, and Megan Easler may be looking to move up, try and add some points to their total, see if they can break 100, and try and bring Elena O'Mara back down off of the top 3 podium. Now, O'Mara riding for the Amy D Foundation at the top of the team standings leaderboard, but it's a close one with Velocity Vixen bringing a solid squad to the Echelon Racing League, sitting in second, and Team Infinite. That is the squad of Christy Tracy, sitting in third place in the team competition with 251 points. So, Frank, it's been really interesting to watch these teams evolve and watch the teams grow. Obviously, Triple X Racing with a smaller squad. Godby was the exception for that team and spent some time racing for the Esports World Squad this year as well, racing with Team USA. But what a star Jackie Godby has been this season.
Yeah, she, her numbers are just insane. We verify them every race weekend, and she's the real deal. She is just unstoppable right now.
They see 7 wins this season, rode on the national team as well for the Esports World Championships, ended up 5th place there just behind her teammate Lauren Stevens on Team USA, and then also the leader of the Zwift Racing League there as well. Let's bring Mike Weiss back in, our in-real-life race director from the Gateway Cup. Mike, we talked about the differences in the neighborhoods, differences in the courses today, but as we saw in the men's race, it's still a tough race for sure. The corner is going to play their part, and an exciting neighborhood change today as well. Talk to me again about the difference between Benton Park and the Hill. You explained it, I think, pretty well, racing by the Anheuser-Busch campus, and it's just a different vibe today than we had yesterday.
Yeah, the Gateway Cup is, we look at it like, St. Louis is comprised of these neighborhoods that all have really distinct character, and the Giro is like a time machine. You're going back to a slower way of living. Everyone's walking to church on Sunday and eating locally, dining locally every day, all day. Benton Park's a real diverse it's an artist community. It's a blue collar and white collar community all blended in. the course itself, I mean, when we first designed it with the neighborhood and we showed it to the racers for the first time, I think they went from 3 squares in a row, 3 rectangular courses, and then they showed up and they're like, what just happened to us in Benton Park? And I think that's sort of I just remember the first year we did it, people had just not really experienced a criterium quite like it.
Frank, I know you've been there before, and you had a smile on your face when he said it's an interesting way to end the series for sure. It's a tough one out there. Mike, I want to show you some old pictures. You said it's like a time capsule of racing here. I caught up with Joe Teresi yesterday. We were talking about the first T-shirts and the signage. They were all hand-sewn back for the first Giro Montagna. So this is the first T-shirt that I had that they had printed. The over-the-road sign was a hand-sewn, basically piece of fabric that they had made. So things are a lot easier now in 2020, or maybe not. Maybe things were more simple back in '85, but pretty cool to see this history, Mike.
Yeah, that banner still exists. I mean, it is amazing to see it, and if we don't attach it to our trust, they get upset.
And Frank, pretty crazy to see how the technology has changed. This was the first winner of the Giro della Montagna, yesterday's race. That's Jeff Bolt from Davenport, Iowa. Kate Deneen was the winner out of Lawrence, Kansas. And some familiar names here. Look at the riders to watch. How about the second rider there? Tom Schuler from the 7-Eleven Pro Racing Team. We're going to be visiting Tom later this year as we go to the Tour of America's Dairyland, one of the last stops here on the Echelon Racing League. So, Mike, it is so cool to be able to continue this history, and I know that's a big thing for you guys at Big Shark to really embrace the history of this race and make sure that it can continue for a long time to come.
Oh, absolutely. That's the torch we bear.
So, Mike, I see you have the lap counter behind you. I love the realism that we've got going today. We've got the lap counter, we've got the bell, and we have the leader's jersey, which you saw me put on yesterday. I think I'm an XXXXL in Castelli.
Yeah, I don't know why Castelli doesn't like Americans. When we had those jerseys made, bike racers are always kind of anorexic and want the smallest thing they can get. We're like, no, you don't. Like, the small Castelli jersey is basically a sock. But yeah, they actually donate all those to our team and to the event itself. And we've had some really great cyclists wear that same jersey that you put on. So hopefully one day you'll fit.
Yeah, I got to do a little more riding on RGT before I get fit. They need a new cut. They have like race cut and then club cut. They need announcer cut. That's like even bigger, the casual cut, as they say. All right, Mike, thank you very much. I know you're going to be hanging with us. And, yeah, the promoter cut. There you go. Keep an eye on the lap counter and get that bell ready because we're going to have you ringing the bell here. We are inside of 30 seconds to our race start here for the pro women. Frank, the all-important start as we watch everybody start to ramp up here and get ready to get rolling. The goal is to max out the power when the race hits zero. When that flag drops, you want to have your power as high as you can to roll away.
Yep, absolutely. The platform gives you in the bottom right there when it hits 5, it'll say start pedaling. You want to make sure your power's up, ready to go when the counter hits 0. And for the first 100 meters, there's no collision detection, so everyone rides. So it's a smooth start. Everyone can get up to speed and get the racing going.
One of the cooler parts of e-racing, watching everybody explode at the same time on their Zoom cameras at home, watching everybody take to that start. Always fun to watch the field get things underway as we see Jackie Godby assume her normal position on the front of the field. Boy, I hope we are not watching Jackie Godby riding in front of this race for 49K, Frank.
No, and it's funny, we see the names to watch kind of come to the front. I think most of the women in this field are very familiar with e-racing. Godby, the Canon Esports team with Stephanie Stidlick as a new addition, coming over from Velocity Vixen. Krista Doble-Hickok from the Rally team, and the USA National team, Mallory McCrosty from Insured. This is going to be a really good race. It's going to be one to watch, and I'm curious to see how this one will play out.
Well, every week this field has been looking for a way to try to beat Jackie Godby, and Jackie Godby has been trying out different ways to win each week as well. We know she can ride a breakaway. We know she has that long, sustained effort, but it seems like she's really been trying to work on her short game, trying to work on the sprint, trying to work on the bunch sprints to the line, and getting better at it as well. As we saw yesterday, came down to a bunch gallop to the line, but even gapping some riders off in the last 50 meters or so to the line. So Jackie Godby continues to get better with every week of racing here in the URL.
And it does look like this race is starting off a little bit more aggressive than the men's did. A lot of red numbers there, whether that's people just trying to get to the front or people trying to attack into the turns. It just looks like the power to weights are a little bit higher than what they were at the beginning of the men's race. I think we're going to see some excitement early on in this race.
Stephanie Sidlick taking a little look up the right side. Sidlick moving to the Canyon Esports team from the Velocity Vixen squad, who you see moving up the right side there with her former teammate Morgan Chafin in the orange and purple of Velocity Vixen, and trading it for the purple and blue for Stephanie Sidlick now of the Canyon Esports team. Frank, pretty cool to see transfers in the virtual racing world. I continue to amaze me here with the transfer season underway here in virtual racing. A lot of teams changing their rosters and sponsors here on January 1st.
Yeah, it's actually something we openly did not think about. With this season being during the real life racing off season, and us involving real life teams, we realized that rosters change, contracts end, contracts begin, and we would have to be out there. We would have to give them a way to add and subtract riders from their 12-person roster that they gave us at the beginning of the racing league.
Yeah, so you talked about the roster. Explain how that works in the league. 12-person roster, 6 riders max per race, and a 4-rider minimum for most teams?
Correct. So for individual stage races or individual races like this weekend, each team has a 12-rider roster they can pick their squad from for each race. 4-rider minimum to start each race, and then they're allowed up to 6 riders on their squad for each day.
Taking a look at some of the teams registered for our racing today. Canyon Esports bringing a solid squad with 5, but these are all 5 dangerous riders in this women's field. So there's certainly an art to figuring out when to rest your riders and when to bring them to race, because another maybe unforeseen part of virtual racing, Frank, is the fatigue. There's so much virtual racing out there that these riders are having to start to be more selective with the events that they do, because they're quickly realizing you just can't do 3 or 4 races a week. It's just not good for your training to do those heavy blocks of racing every single week. So we're seeing more and more teams start to rest riders in between stops of the Echelon Racing League and make sure that they have some time off the bike and can come in fresh. Guys like Jaden Yeager taking a little bit of time off in the men's field and coming back to race in the Giro della Montagna yesterday, and then Benton Park Criterium today.
Yeah, that's why I'm here commentating with you and not racing today.
There you go.
Our e-racing season with real life season, started in February, March timeframe, and you can race 10 times a day every single day if you want, on any platform you want. And so it's you do have to be targeted, and the e-racing I've found, you can get carried away with it and run your season all the way nonstop from February, year round without taking a break. And just like in real life, you tend to get burned out, and you need that mental and physical reset so that you're excited to race when you are racing.
Yeah, we always talk about the crossover as well from real life racing to virtual racing, or maybe more accurately, it'll be virtual racing to real life racing, because I think we've put more people on bikes here in the last couple months than we ever have before.
Yeah, that's definitely, you can definitely see that if you go to any bike shop in any city and try to order a bike or a component right now. It's the bike boom is real, and I'm excited to see how much we can grow racing here in the U.S. through the Echelon Racing League.
Yeah, I think we saw Mike Weiss was actually calling in from Big Shark Bicycles, his bike shop in St. Louis, where he's been living for the last 6 months. I'm pretty sure he's got like a cot and everything set up there. He can start getting mail and paying his taxes at the shop after this year. Big thank you to all the bike shop owners and employees out there that have weathered the storm over the last year. I know it's been a tough year for bike shop owners and a tough year for bike shop employees as well. So we appreciate each and every one of you out there helping more and more people get on bikes this year in what has been maybe one of the toughest years that we've had on record. So Frank Field's still all together here. We see Eleanor Wiseman taking a look at the front, Christy Tracy getting there as well, Megan Easler there. Being on the front of this race is more important, I think, than yesterday because we have more turns here on the Benton Park course compared to what we had at Giro della Montagna yesterday. It really is a different race. Even just adding a fifth turn like we saw at the Armed Forces Cycling Classic drastically changes the game in a criterium course.
Yeah, and especially, I think the men's race was a little bit more subtle at the start, and so you saw, the majority of the field stay together for over half that race, whereas, you look at this women's race that started off much harder, and I think they've already, whittled the selection down to half of what the field was at the start, just 7 minutes ago. We're down to 16 women here in the front group out of our original 31.
Well, this will be one of the last opportunities for the criterium riders or the sprinters to have a go at it, because when we head to the Redlands Classic up next, some road racing there. We talked about the Sunset Loop road race course. The pros will do several days of racing, but the amateur series is just conquering that Sunset Loop road race day. So that'll be a significantly different day of racing. And then same thing with Joe Martin stage race, some road racing out there as well in Arkansas, February 5th through 7th for the Echelon Racing League. And then switching the schedule from the Green Mountain stage race, we're actually headed to the Indy Crit in Indianapolis, a new signing on the Echelon Racing League this year, and then Tour of America's Dairyland for some more criterium racing to end the series March 11th through 14th up to virtual Wisconsin to wrap up this year's series. So a nice mix of races out there, Frank. Criterium racing and road racing, certainly different in real life, but I think even more different on the RGT platform.
Yeah, I think there's a little something for everyone. The one type of racing we have not had yet, and we will have it coming up in one of the next couple weekends, is we will have a time trial in the race. It'll be part of a stage race, but that's something we have not done yet in our league with these fields and these riders. So I'm curious to see how the time trialing will go.
Yeah, Frank, explain how the scoring works in the league, because the time trial obviously would be based on time, but we're tracking overall based on points. So explain how the time basically gets converted into points, or the difference between time and points in scoring the races and the season.
Yeah, so essentially we have two types of races. We have standalone events, and then we have stage races. This weekend, we're running them as two different standalone events, and so the winner gets 30 points from either race. Whereas in the time-based stage races, like Joe Martin stage race or Redlands or Tour of the Gila, they will race all three stages. They have to finish the prior stage to start the next stage. And then it's essentially just like in real life stage races, it's the person who finishes all three in the least amount of time wins. And then the winner of the stage race of the GC, the general classification, gets 60 points.
It's been interesting to watch sort of the march to the top for our two series leaders. You have Ben Thomas, who has only won one stage so far of the Echelon Racing League, and then Jackie Godby leading the women's race, who pretty much has won every race that she's entered so far out there. So it's an interesting format. It's been really interesting to watch the riders sort of strike the balance between the time-based riding in the stage racing and then the points-based riding in the standalone races here as well. But the overall Omnium scored on points. race, and it looks like we are looking at quite a few more road races coming up here, so it'll be interesting to watch that the GC battles happening at the stage races. Frank, let's keep talking about Benton Park here today. We talked about the turns a lot, but I want to talk about the elevation gain as well as we look at our VeloViewer course profile here. There's two sections on the course that strike me in the VeloViewer profile. You see that first overpass at the top of the picture, and then looks like there's a small turn out of one of the corners closest to us. I mean, can you feel the elevation gain out there when you race this one in real life, and can you feel it on RGT as well, or does it just look tougher on the VeloViewer profile?
No, you really can feel the elevation changes. You know, if you look at where the two turns pinch against each other, you know, coming out of the left-hand turn there, the right into that long downhill prior to coming into the last two turns of the finish. To be honest, in real life, that's probably one of the harder parts of the race because you're jumping into a downhill and trying to keep the speed up is tough. And then you know, maybe not in the first lap or two, but as you do keep racing, you do start to learn there is elevation in the course. You notice that uphill from the start-finish line to turn one. You do notice that slight uphill. You know, it's like 2%, but it's enough you have to put power down to stay in it.
Yeah, it's 2% when you read the tech guide, and then it's 3% halfway through the race and 4% on the last 5 laps, and then feels like about 20% when you're doing it the last couple times in the race. Those criterion hills always seem to get tougher. Seeing a lot of red power numbers here, Frank. It looks like they are lifting the tempo and splitting the group. We're down to about 15 riders remaining in this front group. And look at the names on the front. Tracy, Doble Hickok, Matson Co., Sidlick. If I'm sitting at the back of this group, I'm really starting to worry because these are some big names. This is basically the Esports World Championship roster riding on the front of this lead group right now.
Yeah, I mean, we've been grateful that, you know, these top tier riders have picked the Echelon Racing League to participate and partner with. I do think, you know, this weekend we have the entire U.S. national team in the race with the exception of 2 riders. You know, and there's real life talent and e-racing talent in this race that, you know, is just exceptional and really setting the bar for e-racing as we move into the future.
Yeah, watching the mix of riders that have been successful in virtual racing has been really interesting. There's riders that have had real life success or real road success, I should say. Riders like Chris Doble Hickok, who are well-known racing on the road. But then you have riders who have kind of come to virtual racing as virtual racing specialists, which has also been interesting to watch. But a lot of road names on this list. Lauren Stevens, Shayna Pallas. I mean, these are all riders that we know from watching the PRT and watching road racing. But then riders like Christy Tracy is an endurance rider, right? I see a lot of gravel races for her, a lot of ultra endurance racing and virtual racing as well. So really interesting mix of riders here in virtual racing.
Yeah, I mean, and even Jackie Godby, you know, she's we talk about the relationship of virtual racing to road racing, but Jackie Godby is a professional triathlete. And so you get a really great mix of talent, you know, whether it's homegrown e-race talent, real life road race professionals, or you know, another sport. You know, I think the man that won the esports world championship is a rower. He's not even a bike racer. So yeah, you know, I really think that e-racing allows the aperture to open up a little bit, lowers that barrier to entry, and so you do see talent that otherwise you would not know existed if it was just real life bike racing.
Power getting pushed up again as Morgan Chafin and Lauren Matson-Co take a look at the front, but Jackie Godby there to respond. Matson-Co has been an interesting addition to this field as well. Second place yesterday. I'm going to be keeping my eye on Laura Matson-Co today. I would not be surprised if she could figure it out today, as Jackie Godby just catching her a little off guard yesterday, but Matson-Co, one of the more talented riders in this field, so keep an eye out for her. Here's Pole coming to the front for Canyon Esports. They also have a really strong amateur squad, Frank. I know you've been watching the Canyon Barbarians racing in our community races in the Echelon Racing League Amateur Series. They're going to head to the Redlands Classic January 16th. Really encourage everyone to take a look at doing some of these races. 4 categories, Frank, so pretty much everyone has a shot. You don't have to worry about getting spit out the back, no matter how new or experienced you are to virtual racing. You guys have a category for everyone.
Yeah, it's category 1 through 4 for men and women. It's self-selecting. There's no, we're piloting this new category effort. And the Echelon Racing League is free, and the RGT platform basic membership, which allows you to participate in these events, is free as well. So we definitely, if you're interested in e-racing and virtual platforms, trying something new, definitely recommend you go to echelonracingleague.com and rgtcycling.com and check it out.
Check this out. Amon and Beauville off the back, trying to chase back in together. They have just come unglued from the back of the group. And when you look ahead and see those numbers up there, that is certainly doesn't bode well for the chase effort to try and get back. They're going to have Angie Bonacisi with them. It looks like Bonacisi putting in a pretty serious effort to try to get up here. And we'll see if Amon, Beauville, and Bonacisi can try and work together in the chase group. So again, this is 13th, 14th, and 15th on the road. That means 12 riders up in that front group, and then this will be a group of 3 chasing behind them.
Yeah, this is this just shows how hard this racing is, Brad. I mean, we're 17 and a half minutes into this race, 37K to go, and they're shelling out legitimate riders who are really good e-racers and really strong riders.
Yeah, this is a no-joke race out there today, that's for sure. The split happened much sooner in our women's field than it did in the men's race. Those guys really spent a lot of time lollygagging, we'll call it, Frank, before they had their major split of the day. Here's Megan Easler, who's been a major aggressor for the Project Echelon team. Taking a look off the front, who has also been setting some pretty heavy tempo out there as well.
Yeah, Brad, I think this might be a good time to kind of let our audience know how all these numbers up here work. With the GUI here in the top left, this shows we're watching Megan Easler now. So these are her numbers in the top left corner, power, cadence, and heart rate. When that power number goes red, that means that she's running into something. Her avatar needs to brake for some reason, whether she's running into the back of the rider in front of her or she's going into a turn too fast. So it's her avatar hitting the brakes, and with that number when the number turns red, that means that real life person is still pedaling while that number is red, and they're burning energy. Just below those numbers, you've got the power history, and when that rider goes to draft, it turns into a drafting meter, showing minimum power to stay in the draft and then power needed to go around that rider they are sitting behind.
Frank, we talk about the importance of those power numbers. The verification process in the ERL important as well, where the riders have to verify in several different ways, both their power and weight. Take me through some of the things you guys do to make sure that this is fair racing out there.
Yeah, so we require all the riders to submit power meter calibration and weight verification. This is just to ensure everyone's, being honest and ensuring that everyone's not necessarily trying to cheat on purpose. I don't think anyone would do that, but I do think, people forget, especially going into a stressful race weekend like this.
We see Chris Doble-Hickok here holding the weight on the scale. The weigh-in process, I learned, is pretty complex. You guys are pretty serious about making sure that the weight is accurate, because that's a big part of how the speed is calculated in the game. It's basically power to weight ratio, and so you have to make sure that the power is sorted and make sure that the weight is sorted well. Frank, it's like a 12-step process or something like that these riders basically are submitting videos each week for the weigh-in.
They are. It's they show a date timestamp, show the rider, zero out the scale, they used some kind of known weight, like a weight that Christopher Hickok was holding, to show that the scale is accurate. And then they step on the scale themselves, then step on the scale with that known weight, showing the measurements and zeroing it out each time in between those. So yeah, it sounds very difficult, but after you do it, a handful of times, you can get that video down to about 90 seconds, and it really helps out with keeping everyone on a level playing field and ensuring that everyone's racing fairly.
Pretty incredible to see those numbers, knowing the power numbers out there, and that they're accurate and fair for all of our riders. Sounds like the guys in the chat are taking some issue with me saying that they were lollygagging earlier. I saw Eric Hill just message in saying, I averaged 338 watts for 65 minutes today. Guess he should have done 339 watts for 66 minutes. Back out to the groups. Kirsten Pohl with a little bit of trouble off the back of this group. The German rider trying to hang in there. It's been back and forth a little bit out there today for the Canyon Esports team, but shouldn't have any trouble getting back into the group as long as riders like Godby or Tracy don't keep the pressure on up at the front. There you go. Pohl's back in, but burned a match, Frank, into the red zone, but she has regained contact for the Canyon Esports squad.
Yeah, with this group being as small as it is, with 33.5K to go, Brad, I'm really curious to see if team tactics start coming in here. Godby has no teammates in here. Christy Tracy has one. Laura Matsenko has two, and Britt Mason and Mallory McCrosty. Canyon Esports has a couple riders in here. So I'm really, really curious to see if they start ganging up. Obviously Godby is the rider to watch, and so it'll be interesting to see if they put her on her back foot in the remaining 2/3 of this race.
Yeah, it seems like that's the only thing you can do. I mean, you have to try something new to try to beat Jackie Godby. They definitely tried it yesterday, but Godby is so responsive to these different strategies for different teams trying to figure out how to beat her. It's been really impressive watching her sort of fend off the various attacks that have come after her on the different days of racing here on the Echelon Racing League. Obviously a smart rider as well. So taking a look at the front of the group, there is Pohl getting away as she rolls away for the Canyon Esports team. And if you want to support Kirsten Pohl and the Canyon Esports squad, pick up a t-shirt at wearenations.com. I know a lot of folks are starting to develop their allegiances to their favorite teams or their favorite kits. A lot of people just go off of the look. I know Frankie was talking about the Hugh Dog Racing kit. That was his favorite look. I like the Full Send Racing kit. Project Echelon's got a good one too with their logo. And then I always like the Amy Foundation logo. Good cause. Always nice to support Amy and the Amy D Foundation. So head over to wearenations.com and pick up some official We Are Nations gear to support your favorite team or rider. Frank, I know they saw a big spike in the Project Echelon team store. They were calling it the Cundiff effect. They had to bring in new printers for the t-shirts, and they had to redo their entire logistics to deal with all the new orders coming in after you joined the team.
I've actually heard that it's easier to get Shimano Di2 right now than it is to get a Project Echelon t-shirt. Sorry, Eric.
You gotta buy it out of the back of a van somewhere. All right, this group is splitting even more. I'm seeing a couple riders dropping off the back, so they are putting pressure on again up here at the front group. You can thank Jackie Godby and Christopher Hickok for this new tempo being set, averaging right around 4 watts per kilo. Seems like they're holding it right around there. Frank, just give us some perspective on the watts per kilo. I mean, what does an average race look like? Where do most of these riders sort of end up in the average watts per kilo for a race? What's a high number, what's a good number, and what's a low number in watts per kilo?
I think at the pro ranks, whether it's men or women, in a pretty steady race, the men will see right around 4.5 to 5, and the women will see between 4 and 4.5. That's anything over 4.5 in the women's field men's field is high. That's a rider who is just putting out power, particularly on RGT. That they're not conserving at all. I think right around 4 watts per kilogram, 3.8 to 4 is about average. And then if you can average anything under 3.8 for one of these races and finish, in the top 10, you have mastered the efficiency of this platform. I think we saw that with Matt Moon. We saw that with Matt Moon in the the men's race just now, where he 3.77 watts per kilogram averaged and took the win, and he was the only rider who averaged under 4 watts per kilogram out of that top 10.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier, but maybe the biggest takeaway of the season is the importance of efficiency. Look at the women's top wattage per kilogram performers. Jackie Godby with the highest wattage per kilogram of the last race, the Armed Forces Cycling Classic, but also converted that into a win. But it's amazing how close riders like Stephanie Sidlick or Maddie Ward are in the watts per kilo game, but it doesn't necessarily convert to a top 5 result for them. So like you said, got to be efficient. That is a key part of the racing here. Just because you see riders doing 4.5 or 5 watts per kilogram for an entire day doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be on the podium at the end of the day.
And I think it's important to point out also within RGT, right? Just like in real life, power to weight doesn't matter as much on a flat course as raw power. So, it's where, a lighter rider with a higher power to weight will, do better on a long climb than a heavier rider with just a higher raw power. On a flat road, that higher raw power, such as Jackie Godby, really does shine through, and it requires those lighter riders to put out a higher raw power than what they would, probably feel comfortable. So when you look at the zones, Jackie Godby riding in the green zone right now, riding tempo on the front, while a lot of the riders around her are, in the threshold and VO2 max zones, just trying to stay with her.
Christy Tracy in the group as she works her way through. I noticed Christy Tracy is kind of surging a little bit as they come into the corners, Frank. Definitely one of the more experienced riders on the platform, one of the riders that has probably best figured out how to race on RGT. Is there a reason that she wants to be at the front as they head into the turn? I mean, is the checkup effect the same in virtual racing as it is in real life?
It is. I heard of one of the men's field just after that race say that the collision detection, going into a turn, if the front riders tap their brakes just a little bit, it's just like in real traffic or in a real life race. If you're at the back, you're going to get yo-yoed a little bit, and you're going to have to go harder out of that turn than the front of the group just to stay and get back up to speed with the front of the group.
Just like in real life, if someone unnecessarily taps the brakes going into a turn, or even worse, in a turn, one of the most frustrating things you can have happen, right? When the rider in front of you lets a gap open up that you then have to pay for. Same applies in RGT, so there is definitely some incentive to get towards the front of the group, especially going into the corners where we see a lot of that elastic snapping. Again, the essential impact of the corners in RGT racing.
Yeah, and with the algorithm, I was talking about this with Mike Lister, and Christy Tracy's another great example of it, where you can, there's, the algorithm's hard to figure out, but there are nuances to it that you can kind of play to your favor, whether it's coasting easier so that your rider tries to find someone on the, on the left side of the road approaching a left-hand turn so you can take the inside line, or the other way around.
I love watching the riders spread out across the road, too. That usually means that they have figured out how to feather the power so that they can sit in the group without going forward. So when you see the group spread out almost entirely across the road, that is a group of experienced racers like we're seeing right here. That means that no one is really surging. They're doing a nice job of staying in the group, really maintaining it well out there for this lead group of what is still 12 riders sitting in at 28 kilometers to go. And now we're just waiting for round 2 out of this group. They've already split the main group up. These are our 12 heavy hitters of the Echelon Racing League. And now it's time to see if anyone wants to try to split the group before they get to the finish line. See if they can get rid of riders like Christy Tracy or Laura Matson-Coe here.
Yeah, I think this is that lull that always occurs in a crit 20 to 30 minutes in, right? The sit up and assess the damage that's been done, and just figure out who is still remaining before we get back to racing. And I think with it slowing down a little bit here, we're going to start seeing some attacks soon.
Tough to attack in such an evenly ranked group. I mean, looking at the power numbers of this group, it's pretty similar. Much bigger differential in the men's field than we see in the women's field here. Nice wave there from Christy Tracy as we saw her taking on what I think was an energy shot or gel and then some water to follow it. This is about the time that you'd want to do it, Frank. Start loading up.
Yeah, this is that moment where you're not cross-eyed over the bars trying to watch your screen and like I said, this is RGT is a mentally intense platform to race, and so anytime you can take a breather, catch your breath, grab a water bottle, this is the time to do it.
Getting some questions in chat about the rest of the race, the group behind. We're going to try and take a look at the groups behind our lead group, always trying to keep an eye on them. So 12 up front. This is 13, 14, and 15 that we talked about earlier with Amon, Bovio, and Bonacici still together as they try and stay inside the top 15 here. So nice job for these three working together. Nice to see that they've been able to figure out what looks like a little bit of a rotation and stay together as they try and stay in the gap here in between our lead group of 12. And then take a look at what's behind them. This will be 16, 17, 18, and 19 with Grossman, Noble, Walls in there, and I think Macha was the other one. They're about 2K behind the leaders here, so that's about a little over a lap of racing. They do keep the lap riders in there. So go a little further back after 16, 17, 18, and 19. This is 20th place with Cecile Lejeune. She had a good ride yesterday. A little surprising to see Lejeune off the back solo here for the Canyon Esports team, Frank.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it makes one wonder, was it just being in a bad position through the turns, like we said at the beginning? That race started hard and the yo-yo effect is real, or if it was some kind of e-mechanical power dropout, that might have occurred. Maybe a dead battery or just a hiccup in her local connection.
Could very well be. Here is Holt in 21st out on the road. Rothwell behind her in 22nd. You can see her just off the back there. Here's Elena O'Mara back in 23rd after pulling out of yesterday's racing due to illness. Back today, but it doesn't look like she's quite back to her old self. Not quite back to 100 as the Bovio group is going to come up and looks like go a lap up on her again. So good luck there down on the top 20. Thank you to our camera crew. David Bates at ZMS Livestream and our director, Mark Zaleski, doing a nice job keeping an eye on everybody at the race. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, looking like O'Mara, points for the races go 40 deep. So, she's sitting third overall, I believe, right now. And so she's probably in here just trying to pick up any amount of points she can so that she doesn't just outright lose third place in the series going into the final 3 weekends.
Going just under 25 kilometers to go now. As we see this group Just tapping out the tempo here, really, Frank. Like you talked about the lull in the action. I don't think that anybody wants to launch a long-range attack here because that means you have to go through Jackie Godby, right? It's like challenging Michael Jordan to a free throw competition. You maybe want to challenge into something that you're good at, like bike racing.
Yeah, we're watching Jackie Godby and her numbers right now, and I mean, super impressive numbers. Just sitting on the front with a 4.5 to 5 watt per kilogram tempo pace here. Just trying to make sure that the group doesn't basically keeping it so fast by herself that no one wants to attack.
McGregor, the latest rider to fall victim to that tempo, just getting gapped off the back a little bit, but nice recovery and back in. Frank, you talked about the mental game of racing here. When we watch the riders on camera, I'm always amazed at how focused they are on the screen. I mean, you really have to watch the game closely, especially on RGT, because that drafting is so important. And if you let just a little gap open up, even if you're feeling really good and you're really strong, it's pretty tough to get back to those. So the riders really watch the game closely. You have to be able to follow those incremental moves and adjust your power appropriately. It's another part of getting good at virtual racing.
Yeah, I think the thumb rule for any type of racing is, you have to race 500 to 1,000 times to really kind of master the technique required for that type of racing, whether it's time trialing, crit racing, road racing, Zwift racing, RGT, e-racing. There's so much nuance to each discipline of bike racing that it takes a lot to master. And it's been really awesome seeing these top tier real life pro road racers and Zwift racers and triathletes be able to come in here and just kind of see them get better and better and at the platform each race weekend.
Well, talking about those IRL riders that have built careers outside of virtual racing, how about Krista Hickok back in the group today after a rough day yesterday? We saw her getting dropped out of the group. Not sure what the issue was, if it was mechanical or just dusting off the legs after the holiday season, but it was a surprise to see Doble Hickok getting dropped out of the group yesterday, but she is back in there today. That's her on the left-hand side of your screen with Laura Matson Co. on the right-hand side.
I like the tucking the headphone cable in the bib strap. I'm gonna have to borrow that one.
That's a pro move right there. That's what they call a pro gamer move, Frank.
Learning something new every day, Brad.
Watching the difference of the riders there, Frank, looked like Chris Doble Hickok much more aggressive on the riding than Laura Matson Co.
Yeah, I was actually going to say it looked like Krista Doble Hickok's cadence was twice that of Laura Matson Co. Krista Doble spinning, a super high cadence there. Definitely, I would say over 100. While Laura Matson Co, if you look, she's sitting right around 80 to 85. Just a slower cadence, a much bigger gear.
Mason taking a look off the front now, joining up with Gabi. Everyone going to the red zone here. This is a big effort from Mason, a turning point, you could even say, in the race, Frank. I think that's the first time we've seen everybody in the top 8 have to light up their power meters and go into the red zone.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if In Short is just trying to soften Godby up for Laura Matson Co in a sprint, or if they're just seeing how the field responds, seeing how everyone's feeling.
Mason having a little trouble modulating that power from the front to the back now, but getting back in as McGregor rolls to the front, starts to set tempo.
I think it's also the first time we've seen Godby towards the back of the field.
Yeah. Godby maybe looking for a little chance to zero out her power meter, get a little bit of recovery in. Again, continuing to learn and continuing to get better on the platform just about every week of racing here in the Echelon Racing League. Talked about the focus earlier, Frank. You can see it in Jackie Godby right now. Even as she's adjusting what I think is her gearing on the end of her time trial bars there, still staying focused on the screen. I mean, she barely ever breaks eye contact with that screen, and I think that's part of her efficiency in riding out there, really able to read the race well.
I mean, I feel that Jackie Godby's got her work cut out for her today, really. It's her versus 11 other people or 12 other people in this field. You know, she is the rider to beat.
Yeah, it's not every day that you'll hear me praising the tactics of a triathlete in bike racing, but Godby has certainly figured it out here in the RGT platform of racing. And seems like she's also learning to maybe relax a little bit, just ride her own race and set her own tempo up at the front as she's doing right now.
Yeah, you know, this is actually a tactic that might work out for one of the riders in this field, where if they start sending attacks up the road one after another and Godby decides not to chase one, you know, it might give a bit of an advantage to that breakaway to get away and stay away.
Here's a look on board with Jackie Godby. This is the first-person view in RGT. A lot of riders, Frank, have been racing with this view. They've been changing to this view to kind of try and block out some of the outside stimulus. When you're watching in third-person view, it's a lot easier for riders to over-anticipate moves that are coming, right? You'll see riders coming up behind them, and then they overcompensate for that. But the first-person view kind of forces you to slow down a little bit and just focus on your race and your ride.
It does. I actually switched to first-person view going into the last weekend racing with Armed Forces in Bucks County, and yeah, it turns off a lot of the noise that you get if you have the third-person view up and you're able to see a much bigger picture.
Take me through the GUI here as well, because I think this is a good opportunity to talk about the drafting and how important it is. Tell me what we're seeing on Jackie Godby's GUI.
Yeah, so over here on the top left, you've got her power, cadence, and heart rate. Her power number there, when it turns red, that's because she's running into the back of the riders, as you see right here. Basically, it's saying, hey, you're going fast. If you want to stay in the draft, you're going too hard. It'll also turn red when she goes to a turn too fast, as that's her avatar braking, like right now. When she is sitting behind someone, there will be a meter below where her power history is. You should see it right now with getting behind Chafin. Where it gives the power savings they're getting in the draft, as well as the minimum number on the left there to stay in the draft. And then on the right is the power they need to, Godby's going to have to pedal to get over top of that rider. And then in the middle there is the distance to the rider they are drafting. A
nice view inside the peloton with Jackie Godby on board with RGT. And the power zones presented by Saris, important too. These are based on the rider's FTP, their functional threshold power. You don't have to be a bike racing nerd to understand it. It basically just means the different zones that they can ride in, going from the easiest zone, blue, that's a recovery ride where you're like riding down the street to a coffee shop, and then the red zone is basically your pain threshold. You shouldn't be able to ride in the red zone for any more than 10 or 15 seconds, Frank. Otherwise, your FTP is probably off. Most riders can't ride in that top zone for more than 10 seconds or so.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that RGT has done a really great job with, where, you know, in a real life race, you can look over at the person riding next to you and say, oh, they look like they're dying. All right, you know, and it gives you an idea of how everyone's feeling around you. What RGT has done, since you don't have that ability in a virtual race, is underneath each rider's name is a little meter that changes colors based on how hard they're going, and that those colors, you know, relate back to that chart we were just looking at. So it gives you an idea. You know, if you say Krista Doble Hickok's been in the threshold and VO2 zones quite a bit, she should be tired at this point. You know, it gives you an idea of how hard everyone's been racing through the duration.
Chafin riding up on the front, Doble Hickok there as well. Laura Matson Co. setting a little tempo with 3 Americans, and then German sitting in 4th, now moving down to the back of the group for Kirsten Pohl. All right, let's bring back in our race director, Mike Weiss here. Mike, I know things are very different here in the time of virtual racing. You get to sit in the office and watch the racing, but you're also running a bike shop at the same time as putting on this bike race. I have to imagine, even though you didn't have the race on your plate this year, you guys are probably still pretty busy in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if the New York Times is actually writing an article on bike shops, that means something. You know, it's a year like no other. I'm sure everybody in the industry is kind of wondering what 2021 is going to do. I mean, the supply chain issues Frank talked about are no joke. Shimano, I hear, is over 400 days out on new orders for new bikes. So I think most stores, most folks in the U.S. have already placed orders bigger than they've ever imagined, just so we can all have something for the demand this summer. It's full on weird. I mean, every day is weird. But,
what about the trainers for virtual racing? A good supply of trainers out there right now?
You know, unfortunately, no. I mean, it's we're selling every brand we can get our hands on. Wahoo, Saris, Tax. I mean, they all make great products, and you know, and there's just a huge interest in checking out these platforms. I mean, we've been trying to push RGT to our customers to try it. We had a team in that first race, and that's inspiring people. And then it has helped with a lot of mental health, not just physical health for people. While people are kind of isolated, I mean, it does. There's something about riding not alone. I think it's.
Even if it's on the virtual platform. Nice to be able to connect. You talked about the local team as well. You guys have the Gateway Devo team, is that right? A couple local teams, I think, racing this weekend.
Yeah, we had Gateway Devo is based out of St. Louis. You know, Chris Creed and his crew have done a great job over time. And then Spencer Segrich, who's now on the Canyon team, races for our local team. And then we had Devin Clark, Craig Cooper, and Patrick Dunn in the men's race, and they. I think Devin, you know, it's the new mechanical, right? He didn't get dropped. He had a power outage. But yeah, I think they were all, you know, strong riders locally, but they said that the what they just experienced was a little bit different for just wattage they hadn't seen. I mean, Spencer's a pro. He's amazing, but yeah, we're hoping that we get to do this again next year, guys. I mean, I think your insight, the way you're commentating, I think is making it more real, and I hope that everybody gets rewarded for this.
Well, different is a good way to put it. Certainly a different style of racing, but it's nice to see the crossover again of the real-life riders coming over, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot of these RGT riders at the Real-Life Gateway Cup whenever we come back, which we're hoping is sooner rather than later. Mike, I'm going to ask you to get the lap counter and the bell ready, because we're going to be getting down to it here pretty soon at 14.4K to go. We're going to be down to 1 lap to go here pretty soon. Thanks, Mike.
All right.
All right, so Frank, sounds like they're going to be looking at 5 laps to go on the line next time they hit the banner. And we'll see if this changes the dynamics of the race, having laps to go versus distance, although I'm sure a few riders have extrapolated out the time. It doesn't show you laps to go. I don't think it shows you laps to go on the rider GUI, does it? Can they see how many laps they have to go?
It does. It does. So just below the power, in between the power and then the rider position on the left-hand side, there's a number of riders online, and then it shows your lap number versus how many total laps there are.
Ah, there you go. Yeah.
That was a new addition RGT put in a couple months ago. That's really been super helpful with racing crits.
A little bit of separation from the group as they come around the turn again, dealing with the physics of the game and the elastic snapping out of the group. I'm surprised nobody else has been dropped out of here, Frank. I mean, this group of 12 has really been maintaining for the better part of 20 plus minutes now. Once they made the selection, it was pretty clear that these were the 12 of the day out there.
Yeah, and it's not for slowing down, right? This group is, the front riders have been doing between 4 and 5 watts per kilogram the whole time. They're sitting on the uphill, they're doing 35 to 40K per hour. On the downhill flat sections, they're doing 45 to 50K per hour. That's a 26, 27 mile an hour race. This is a hard effort.
It'll be interesting to compare the average watts per kilogram, even from yesterday into today, to see how that changes between a 4-corner criterium and a 7-corner criterium. So we'll be comparing those after the race today. But right now, everyone pretty much maintaining right around 4 watts per kilo. So if you have a trainer at home, if you have a smart bike or even a Peloton, I think they probably show the watts per kilo on those things. I've not been on one yet. But test yourself against these numbers. If you have any way of measuring the watts per kilo, I always like to do this with real life bike racing, where I challenge people to go home and try and ride 30 miles an hour and then try and do it for an hour and a half. Go home and try and ride 300 watts, 350 watts, 400 watts, and then try and do that for an hour and a half. You get a good taste of what these riders are doing out there today. I guess I don't have to tell people to go home anymore, because we're all home. All the time.
Go to your pain cave
for months. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
Here's Cecilia Lejeune, a lap down here, sitting in 13th place. So even though she's with this group, you see the number next to her name doesn't change as she goes to the front, because she is now basically a full lap down on this group. So pretty significant difference for Lejeune today. We were just speculating earlier about whether it was a technical or if she fell victim to all the corners on this course. If she stays in this group, Frank, that would make me think that it might have been a technical, if she still has the legs to respond to all the moves here, and maybe had a dropout today.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you 100% there, Brad. And she seems to be hanging in just fine here. So, yeah, I'm thinking it might be a technical, and I'm sure we'll look into that with the RGT technical guys and her Canyon Esports team to find out what the cause was and see if it can't be fixed.
All right, good look at our riders preparing for the final 4 laps of racing here. Good look at some of our pre-race favorites preparing for the last 4 laps of racing here around the Benton Park course here. Frank, you can really see the difference in cadence for these riders. You see how quickly Jackie Godby is pedaling and how slowly Laura Matson-Coe is. It's just a difference in gearing. We see this on the road, too. Some riders like to pressure the legs. Some riders like to pressure the cardio system.
Yeah, I mean, Matson-Coe even sitting up, stretching her back out a little, getting ready for this last 10 kilometers. I do think it's interesting to point out that 2 of the 3 riders on this on our display there were on TT bikes on their trainers. I'm not sure if I could do that.
Yeah, she took the opportunity when she could to try to zero things out and get a little bit of rest with a big run into the finish here. So we'll keep an eye on Laura Matson-Coe. Definitely preparing for something big here in the closing kilometers. Going to the arch at 4K to go. That is the backside of the course, the yellow arch that they go under. I thought it was 1K to go earlier, but I think it's the backside of the course here at 9.6K to go. I think that signifies halfway along the course. And then I think the 1K to go marker is just a little roadside stone, Frank.
Yeah, the yellow banner is halfway through the lap. So that's the half a lap to go banner, if you will.
There we go. That was the 1K banner right there.
Yep.
$8.4K now, Frank. Clock continuing to tick down. I don't know that anyone gets away from Jackie Godby at this point, so you might as well probably strap in for a field sprint here and just hope that you can go a little earlier than her, try and catch her off guard. I mean, when you have someone like Jackie Godby who's been winning consistently, how do you beat her? I mean, what can you do, Frank?
You know, I think I don't know. I mean, that's the ultimate question in this race, right? That's what everyone in this field's trying to figure out is how do you beat her? You know, I do think it'd be interesting from one of the bigger teams in this field, whether it's Velocity Vixen, Insured, or Infinite, see if they send a rider up the road. You know, I think we'll see that with Christy Tracy. That seems to be her MO. That's her, you know, she's not a sprinter at all. She's an endurance rider. So I think the longer effort would be something she does.
Yeah, everyone's still kind of discovering what type of rider they are on RGT as they've really been trying to figure out the platform and how to best ride it. But I think you're right. Not everybody is a sprinter out there, and they're starting to learn that. But Jackie Godby can definitely do it. I mean, from 500 meters to like 800 meters seems to be her danger zone. That's where she really starts to ratchet up the power. So I don't know if you have to go before that or go after. Be patient, wait, and try and follow the wheel. I'm not sure. If I knew how to beat Jackie Godby, I would figure out how to do it and tell the other teams, and we'd have a different leader. Or a different winner, I should say, because Godby would still crush the overall from her consistency of racing. Although I do have to say, to Jackie Godby's credit, she has been more than welcoming to new challengers and new styles of riding. We talked about the different strategies that teams are kind of coming for the queen here now with a big target on Jackie Godby's back, but she's really shouldered that burden and welcomed the new competition. She was really psyched to see Tipco SVB joining the Echelon Racing League last week.
Yeah, I think Jackie Godby's a super smart rider, and she continues every race to kind of try to basically figure out what her limit is, right? She wants to see what she can and can't do, and if that is, you know, just find out what can beat her, and then try to work on that and improve it. You know, she referenced that learning how to sprint. You know, she learned that from battling it out with McCroskey in the USAC races, the USA Cycling races. And so she seems to be the type of rider that looks for a weakness and then tries to improve it and get better at that weakness.
Coming up on 5K to go, seeing 6.4 kilometers of racing remaining now. Average speeds right around 37 to 40 kilometers per hour. We can also see the road grade up at the top right of the screen. The green section in the top middle of that graphic shows the current gradient on the road. So we talked about the up and downs on this course and the slight hill, major hill that they had yesterday at the Giro della Montagna, but a little smaller today. But you can see when the road kicks up if you just keep an eye up there on the top right of the screen. Checking in on some of our chats. Graham Henderson says, thanks for the great camera work, tracking the whole field today. Awesomeness. Yeah, you can thank Damon Bates at ZMS Streaming. He does the amateur series here of the Echelon Racing League and helps run our cameras as well during the pro races. Does a great job, and it really has a good grasp of the platform. So a big shout out to Damon and ZMS Streams, doing a great job. All right, so this is going to take us down to 2 laps to go here on the counter, Frank. Just like in real-life racing, we start to see the setup now. We start to see the riders getting ready, looking for position, trying to get up to the front, but not too far to the front. It's just preparing here for the final lap.
I'm really curious, Brad, to see if we see any late attacks try to go similar to a Vogel style attack. And we saw in the men's race.
Gap's getting bigger and bigger here, Frank. I'm noticing that we had the separation out of the turns earlier, but now coming out of the turns, the gaps are bigger from rider to rider. So I don't know if that's just fatigue setting in or that the overall speed is picking up, but it seems like you're in more danger now towards the end of the race of having an issue in those turns.
Yeah, I think it's a combination. We're an hour and 5 minutes in. This is, the top end of a real life crit or a virtual crit for these riders. And so, I think as we get over that hour mark, the fatigue really starts to build. And it'll be interesting to see if anyone does get gapped off in this last two laps.
Yeah, seeing it here on the straight a little bit. You see Double Hickok going into the red to close down that gap. I think that was Easler behind her, who should also be able to get in here. But the pressure stays on. Now in the final lap of racing, it'll be really interesting to watch the average power here to see if they're waiting for a field sprint or if they just go all out for the last just over 2 kilometers around the circuit here. So Frank, riders just basically working their way across the backside of the course right now. They just went through that little chicane right there that you see in the top middle of the course profile. Then they've got that right-hander where the course kind of comes back on itself. You can see that off to the rider's left-hand side. And then a couple more lefts and back to the line.
Yeah, and this part of the course is downhill as well until they make that final turn on the front start-finish stretch.
Sidlick coming to the front. Seems like Pole has been the aggressor for Canyon Esports so far, but 4 riders from the Canyon Esports squad in this group, Frank. There's got to be something to power in numbers here, but we'll see how they use it. That's the big question. It's really tough, actually, to do on RGT, to be able to use those numbers to your advantage. But here goes one rider surging up the right-hand side as they are definitely starting to lift the tempo here, getting ready to go to 1 lap to go in the final couple turns of the penultimate lap.
Yeah, and Godby not wasting any time going back to the front to make sure she's not missing it.
And here's the banner where we're going to send him out for 1 lap to go. Let's bring in our official bell ringer, Mike Weiss. Thank you, Mike. I feel like I'm there. The scent of the food trucks is wafting across my desk, Frank.
Well, you got to get the hop smell when you get on the backside of the course from the Anheuser-Busch Brewery.
Another one of the unique sensory aspects of the Gateway Cup. Look at the separation here. Spread out single file as they come out of the corner, but Godby continuing to put pressure on the front. Mason in a little bit of trouble at the back. We saw some attacks from her early on. Wonder if she's paying for that right now, although quickly able to recover. It's so tough, isn't it, Frank, to feather this? You want to be at the front, but not all the way at the front. And everybody watching Jackie Godby now. She is in charge of this field.
Yeah, it actually looked like Mason was bringing Laura Matson-Coe back up towards the field where it looked like she had been disconnected as well. You see the two of them riding together. It'll be interesting to see if Mason leads out. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Mason leads out Matson-Coe. Try to correct the mistake that was made yesterday when sprinting against Godby.
That's got to be tough to do, tough to get that timing right in the lead out. I think it's probably even easier to get it right in real life than it is on the RGT platform. So we'll see if the Insured, presented by Pedal Power team, can figure it out today and try to figure out how to come over the top of Jackie Godby. Here goes Mason, getting to the front. Chris Doble-Hickok wants a look at it as well. Again, it's just about positioning right now. I don't think anyone's trying to get away. They're just trying to make sure that they are there and they can stay in the draft and follow a move if they need to. 1.5 kilometers to go now as Chafin drops back. Great ride by Morgan Chafin today. Really aggressive, always staying in the group, and really didn't see her losing contact a whole lot throughout the day. So efficient riding from Morgan Chafin. Doble-Hickok and Godby back on the front. It's still about consistency, Frank. You still have to make sure that your wattage isn't fluctuating too much, which is so easy to do late in the race here.
Yeah, especially through these tight turns when you're worried about getting gapped off the back. You know, you tend to overreact and shoot up to the front when coming out of them.
This looks like an Amy D Foundation jersey. And now look at this. Everybody just sitting right in the Jackie Godby slipstream. They're like, let her do what she does best. And there's the 1K marker. 1K to go here, Frank.
Everyone getting antsy already.
Chafin sitting at the back with Doble-Hickok. Good wheel to back up to the front here with it. Pole going maybe a little early as she gets spit out to the back.
There goes Mason lining it out. Gotta be right next to her. Here it goes.
And Matson Co. gets it done today.
There it is. Phenomenal riding by Insured there to take the victory.
Yeah, pretty amazing after the time that she spent at the back today. I thought Matson Co. was in trouble out there, but obviously came good at the end after a second place yesterday. Finally got it right today, and the Queen has been dethroned as Jackie Godby gets beat for the first time in 6 races here at the Echelon Racing League by Laura Matson Co. of the Insured, presented by Pedal Power Team. What a ride out there, Frank.
Yeah, no, she really did phenomenal. You know, she's super efficient at the platform as well. So I'm curious to see what her, with the sitting at the back, what her power to weight average versus everyone else in the top 10 is, especially with that monster sprint at the end.
Well, quick to the line and quick to the interview as well. We're going to grab a word in just a couple minutes as we welcome in the rest of our riders on course. The first riders have come in with Sidlick and Wiseman going 11th and 12th. This is going to be 13th on course with Cécile Lejeune. All right, so watching Lejeune on the way in, is she good for 13th place today on the day as Laura Matson-Co takes the win over Jackie Godby. A really impressive win for Matson-Co today there over Jackie Godby. Christy Tracy going to hold on for 4th place with Mallory McCrosty in 5th place. McGregor holds on for 7th. So there you go. Frank Matson-Co takes the win at 0.021 seconds over Jackie Godby. Britt Mason in 3rd. Christy Tracy in 4th with McCrosty in 5th place. Megan Easler in 6th. McGregor in 7th. Kirsten Pohl holds on for an 8th place finish today for the Canyon Esports team with Morgan Chafin and Krista Doble-Hickok rounding out the top 10 for rally cycling. All right, let's see if we can grab a word with our race winner out there today, Laura Matson-Co. Laura, can you hear us? Still on the bike. All right, so let's talk about, I don't know if we can hear her. I can. Go. Laura, congratulations on the win today. I got it right today after a 2nd place out there yesterday. What changed today? I mean, did you do anything different today to beat Jackie Godby?
I'm so sorry. Hi. Yeah, today I just tried to be really conservative. I actually had a little GI bug, so I was really trying to be as conservative as possible and learned a lot about the game. Honestly, Jackie's so strong. She pushed so many more watts than me today. She's incredible, but I just was trying to be tactically wise, but fun day.
Yeah, talk about your wattage today. How different was it from yesterday? I mean, was the effort similar or was it significantly different from the 4-corner crit?
I just tried to be as lazy as possible. So my heart rate was in the 130s, the 140s for a lot of it. And I was just really trying to learn how to take those corners and really enjoy that. Almost like powder skiing, just kind of figuring out when to edge, when to let up, and really enjoy the corners.
I saw a couple times you were able to actually sit up on the bike and register some zeros on the power meter. Is that a big goal for you to try and maximize that time to rest?
So I'll say this. So it is, and I think that as a good tactic, and it made me feel very fresh for the sprint. However, in the future, I want to work with teammates and just make this a bit more of a dynamic race, because I think these races, as we learn the corners better and the courses better, it's going to be more and more fun to kind of work together, try to do breaks, try to spread out the field. So I think, yes, that was my goal today because I didn't feel great. However, in the future, I really want to enjoy playing.
Continuing to push the limits with the Ensure presented by Pedal Power Team. Congratulations to our race winner today, Laura Matson-Co, as she goes from 2nd yesterday to 1st place today. Going to be interesting to watch this battle continue as we got a new boss in town at the Echelon Racing League. Congrats, Laura.
Thank you.
Well, Frank, overall, a pretty impressive day of riding as we get a new winner in the Echelon Racing League. I wasn't sure when the day would come that somebody finally beat Jackie Godby, but it was today at the Gateway Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. And, she was saying she was trying to be as lazy as possible when we laughed, but you look, her watts per kilogram, 3.58, just phenomenal efficiency there. And it paid off. I'm really curious to see how all these riders take on the next couple weeks of racing with the going into longer stage races. Redlands, we will not be doing a crit. It'll be, I believe, a time trial and some road races. So I think it's going to be a different tactic and different experience for all the riders.
Well, certainly going to be an interesting one as the racing continues. We hope that you'll join us for the Redlands Bicycle Classic up next, January 22nd through 24th for the Echelon Racing League. That's going to do it for us today. For Frank Cundiff, my name is Brad Soner, saying thanks for watching. Congratulations to all of our winners at the virtual Gateway Cup, Benton Park today. That's it from St. Louis, Missouri.